Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Table Talk. This is an event designed to bring aspiring food entrepreneurs together with resources and inspiration. Today will feature a dynamic keynote speaker, short presentations with support organizations, and a panel of industry entrepreneurs that will share their experiences. My name is Rob Belcher. I am a small business consultant and manager at the St. Catharines Enterprise Center. With me on stage is my colleague, Dean Spirinello, the manager of the Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise Center. In a moment, I'll turn over the microphone to Dean, and he will tell you a little bit more about what you can expect from the day. But before I do that, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about how our two offices can support aspiring startups and existing small businesses as well. The Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise Center and the St. Catharines Enterprise Center jointly serve the entire Niagara region. Our offices are part of a network of 54 locations across Ontario. The network is a unique partnership between the Ontario government, the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and our local communities. Our offices, the small business centers, are here as a dedicated resource where we provide information and guidance to help you and your business succeed. Without the support of the Ministry of Economic Development, we would not be able to offer services of this nature. So if you are a small business owner or an aspiring startup, we encourage you to reach out to either of our offices to learn more about how we can help. And at this point, I'd really like to turn things over to my colleague, Dean, who will tell you a little bit more about the event. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Rob. And we've had the idea of running an event for food entrepreneurs for a long time. And I'm thrilled that today this idea is finally coming to fruition. And we know at the small business centers that the food economy in Niagara is growing, especially for small batch producers or artisanal producers. There's hardly a week that goes by in our offices where we don't hear from someone who has a recipe they're looking to turn into a product that they can sell, or is a food hobbyist that is looking to convert their skills and their passion into a food business for yourself. So if you are one of those people, we hope that today's event brings you one step closer to your goal as a food entrepreneur. I'm also excited to share that as part of today's event, we are giving away 4 $100 gift cards to 4 very lucky event attendees. And these gift cards are from the 4 local businesses that are participating on our local stories panel at the end of the event. And the rules for winning yourself a gift card are quite simple. All you have to do is make meaningful engagement and contributions in our event chat. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see there's an event chat where you can post questions, introduce yourself, comment on other people's questions, and so on. So all you have to do is provide engagement and contribution in our chat. And you can't see them, but right now we have Victoria and Kristen from our Small Business Center team in the background monitoring our chat, and they have our eyes on who's providing contributions and who's speaking up. So if you want to win a $100 gift cards from one of the 4 businesses on our local stories panel, all you have to do is speak up and be part of the conversation. Now, having said all of that, let's get to the reason why all of you have joined us this morning. I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Dana McCauley, to our virtual stage. Dana is the Chief Experience Officer with the Canada Food Innovation Network. And throughout Dana's experience in the food industry, she has helped coach over 200 food entrepreneurs on how to turn their ideas into viable and successful food businesses. Dana, thank you so much for being a part of our event today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I have an incredible fondness for entrepreneurs, and as a lifelong foodie, I've worked in the food business now for 30 years. I obviously love food entrepreneurs best. So thank you so much for inviting me to talk to these folks. I just wish we were in person so that I could meet them and hear their stories. But at least today I'll get to share a little bit of what I've learned over the years with them, and maybe they'll connect with me in other ways in the future.
Awesome. Well, I know Rob and I are looking forward to your presentation, Dana. So the stage is yours. And throughout
Thank
the
you.
event, we'll have comments in the chat about how you can follow up with the Canada Food Innovation Network to learn more about how they help food ventures start and scale. So, Dana, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here. As I've just mentioned, I'm going to try to share my screen now, and let's hope that goes as smoothly as it does on a regular basis. You never know when technology is going to going to cause you some issues. So let me window. There we go. I think this is going to work, everyone. All right, here is a would love to hear an acknowledgement if maybe Dean or Rob could tell me that my slides are showing and that you're seeing everything. I think it is, so I'm going to jump in. But we do seem to be at the very end of my presentation. I think I'll start at the beginning. I don't know. I saw the movie Memento, but I don't think I can pull that off by giving you guys a backwards presentation. So today, as I mentioned, I'm going to share some of my some of the things I've learned that are common to almost every food business's journey, and really every consumer product or business to business products journey. I've given this talk over a period of 6 weeks. I've done it in 3 hours. I've sometimes done it in 5 or 10 minutes, but today you're going to get the sort of 45-minute version. Hopefully we'll be able to also maybe have some questions, but needless to say, it's going to go pretty quickly. And some of it you'll know because you've taken the journey to a certain stage already. Some of it might just give you a new way of thinking about something you did in the past. And yeah, let's jump right in. So as Dean said, I'm Dana McCauley. I'm from the Canadian Food Innovation Network. We are new. There's a little code here that I would encourage you to scan, and they'll take you right to our website. And what you're going to find on the website that I really want to draw your attention to is our membership page. And in fact, I think this code takes you directly there. Being a CFIN member is free for larger businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises. We offer funding to do innovation projects that will transform your business and have a follow-on effect for the rest of the industry. For everybody who's in the food business, we will be launching something called Yodel, which will be a very unique platform. It's coming in the summer, and it will be a place where you can get new ideas, find partners and collaborators, and generally just keep fresh, which, as we all know, in this very fast-paced business world, even when we can go out and about, we sometimes don't have an opportunity to put our head up from the work that has to be done on a daily basis to get those fresh ideas. So we hope we can bring them to you in a new, fresh way. We are a government-funded organization. As you can see, here's a quote from Minister Champagne talking about why our organization is important. I'm not here today to sell you on CFIN, so I'll move along. But just so you know, what we focus on are smart product and process development, food ecosystem sustainability, and agile and safe supply chains. So needless to say, that covers a lot of different types of innovations that can help all kinds of food businesses, from food manufacturers to food service to grocery, retail, e-commerce, etc. All right, get ready. We're going to jump right in now. So how to create a food product is one thing. How to create a food product that sells, that's a little bit different. So why don't we focus on how you take your great idea and make it appealing to others? And by others, I'm meaning consumers and customers. So most often you will find that you have to sell twice. Once to the person who's the end user, and one's to the person who's going to create a pathway for your product to get to that end user. We'll talk a little bit more about who they are in a couple of minutes. But really important before you get too far down the line, investing a lot of your time and a lot of your money, is to ask who cares about your idea. And if the only person who cares about it is you, might not be the big business idea that you need to make being a food entrepreneur worth your while. If it's your mom, you're also not in the best shape. So really have to understand what you are doing to solve someone's problem, and we'll talk at length about that in a couple of minutes. And then even if people say that they want your product, they need your product, are they willing to pay for it? So those are the two most important things that any business of any kind has to grapple with. So a lot of people use the word idea. Oh, I've got so many ideas, and that's awesome, but so do most people. Ideas are fantastic, but what really creates a product is a concept, and it's a quite a long process, as you probably all know, to get your ideas through this what's called the fuzzy front end, this ideation and product development cycle. And at every different stage, you're going to be making no-go decisions, potentially pivoting, sometimes going back to the stage before, and it can feel a little overwhelming. So I'm going to try and break down some of the things that you can do along the way to make it feel more purposeful, I suppose. So an idea, as I said, is something that isn't tested. Good ideation. Say you are a carrot farmer, or you love carrots and you can get a great deal on carrots. Good ideation is focused on the end user. It's about empathy. It's about understanding what people want and need. So if you think everybody likes carrots and you think, well, who really, likes exciting vegetables, and what sells well already, what's a great flavor trend, you come up with something that has a chance of being something people want. You still have to test it. But if you just think from your own focus group of one, not necessarily going to get you where you want to go. There's a chance that everyone's just like you, but we're all we all have our own little proclivities, and we should never assume that everyone's just like us. So as I mentioned, you have two challenges. So whether you're selling in a B2B channel, a B2C channel, you have someone you must get through to get to the consumer. Even if you're at a farmer's market or you own your own store, you still have to, get yourself into that retail environment, whether it's a booth or it's a storefront, which means you probably have to sell the idea to a bank to get some financing, or to your spouse to miss the Saturday morning breakfast and such that happens every week at your household. So you need to understand why those people, those gatekeepers who are between you and your customers, why do they make decisions? So in the case of a retailer or a distributor, you usually have them coming down to two things. They have customers, they want to sell them more, they want to make more money from their existing pipeline, or they realize that they don't have all the products that they need to satisfy new customers to grow their business. So you need to sell to them and think about their needs, because as you can see from this picture of a juice aisle, or maybe I think it's a juice aisle. There's no real empty space on the shelves. Right now, in some grocery stores, we do have empty spaces, but it's unusual. We're talking about it. It's in the news. So why is a grocer going to get rid of something else on their shelf and put your product there? It's going to have to do one of these two things. So to do that, you need to understand their customers. You need to understand what people's problems are And then you have to use your creativity to solve them. I love this quote by Henry Ford. And in fact, when I still had an office, this poster, this that you see right here, was on my office wall. People don't always know what they need. They know what their problem is. But as Henry said, if he'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses that don't need to take breaks, that don't have to be fed and given water. Well, that's good to know. But then it's that creativity and that special spark that you as an entrepreneur bring in that helps to get to go. Now, in Henry's case, he actually, he looked around him and he saw all this great new technology, the combustion engine and, vulcanized rubber. And he went, how can I use all this stuff to solve this problem? And of course, he disrupted and changed the world, not just his industry, but the world forever. And that's what at the Canadian Food Innovation Network, we're really trying to get to, are those big ideas, which is a very exciting thing to do on a day-to-day basis. So once you understand what people's problems are and you understand how your product can deliver it, to get through those gatekeepers and to make those end consumers understand what you've got, you have to be able to articulate it to them very well. So a value proposition, sometimes people call it an elevator pitch. It's the primary reason you do your work. It's the primary reason you're creating a product. And it is going to be something that you need to be able to, just fire off in all different kinds of ways, meaning that you need to be able to adjust your message to your audience and really get them to understand why they need to care about you and your product. So some of you, I hope, are familiar with the value proposition canvas. This is my version of it. It's almost 90% the original from the book, but I've tailored it a little bit for my own purposes, just to sort of really make it clear. If your product, meaning the physical thing that's in the bottle, all the claims, the packaging, the branding, if that wonderful package doesn't fully align with your customer, you will not be as successful as you want to be. So if this little green pill shaped thing is up here or down here, even on a slant, you aren't quite optimized. And this is why we often talk in marketing about having a target consumer, because you can afford to market to one person quite easily, or one type of person quite easily. But if you try to market to a whole bunch of different folks, it'll be very expensive and your message won't be clear. So you actually will get more people if you just focus in on that one consumer type and you do a good job of it. You'll get a whole bunch of other folks who are adjacent to them who respond to some of your messaging, but you have a good chance of getting a bulk of that one group to respond. So I hope that was clear. I basically gave you a whole book on marketing in one sentence there. So I've learned a few tips and tricks for forming value propositions and for testing them. And this is such an important and useful exercise. It's helped me so much now that I have broken this down. I use this information not just for when I'm helping somebody to develop a product, or in the past when I was developing products myself, but for all kinds of things. Like even if I'm writing someone a letter and I want them to do something for me, I take the most time writing the value proposition. So what is in it for them? Why is this a good use of their time to read my letter, respond to me? And in this case for you, why is your product important and useful and something they should care about and give you money for? So this is a little table that a friend of mine, some of you may have encountered her because she's very active in the food entrepreneurship space. Her name's Seema Gandhi, that she just showed me this wonderful little grid. To identify a value proposition very, very easily, think about what people had before your product and how they felt. And I'm going to show you an example, which I hope will make this more clear. And then after your product, once that's in their life and available to them, how does their problem, their state change, and how do they feel? And if you don't see a big change in the after section, chances are your value proposition needs to be tweaked. It brings in a whole bunch of things like, competitiveness and people's wants and desires and trends in just this really simple little way. So here's an example. This is a product. I saw it actually at the grocery store, Farm Boy. It was launched in August 2020. And you might say, why would Del Monte launch anything in the middle of a pandemic, and much less canned vegetables? I mean, it seems pretty retro, right? And especially to launch in the summertime during harvest. It's like, really? So I said, okay, let's break this down. This can be a good case study for my clients and food entrepreneur friends. So if you think about it, what are the problems that a target market might have? Who is their target market? So lots of people don't have time to do a lot of preparation. Maybe they live alone and they've got fresh foods going bad and they're crisper every week and they're throwing away a lot of food and they feel guilty about that. And of course, maybe the money that they're losing on that waste is also impactful. And maybe it's lockdown. Maybe they are feeling fearful and they want to have something in their house. And needless to say, that's going to create a whole bunch of negative feelings for that consumer. So after a product like this, what do they have? They've got options. They've got less food to manage in their house. They don't have to clean any vegetables. They don't have to chop any vegetables, and they've got more freedom. So as you can see, there is a consumer benefit. Now, who is that consumer? That's a slightly different question. What I like about this product is I think their consumer is probably a boomer, probably somebody, in that silver economy, as we like to call it at CFIN, who doesn't necessarily, doesn't have the same impulses that a younger consumer has to eat fresh, eat local, go to the farmers market. And we often forget about other demographics. We're always looking at the next big thing, the millennials, the Gen Zs. And this is a good example of somebody who said, who hasn't had something new for them, aimed at them in a while, and who actually has potentially the money to pay for it. So here's a quick little way for you to, this is something that I would recommend if you, are trying to iterate and develop your messaging. Sorry, there's my boss, the dog, barking in the background. But if you're trying to develop your messaging, you're trying to hone your product claims, you're trying to develop a new product, this is the kind of thing I would maybe print and put on my bulletin board above my desk. It's just a quick little checklist. So I don't know if you can see that, but my boss is now in my office. Sorry about the interruption, folks. I said to my husband last night, I said, what sucks about online conferences is that you don't get to go somewhere. You don't get to meet people. You don't get that nice catered lunch. And I forgot that you also get to leave your dog at home. So anyhow, apologies for the interruption. So if we had more time and we were workshopping today, I would love to take you through the exercise we just did with your own product and then help you to take that information, identify who that problem owner is. So whoever, and fill out this sort of Mad Lib thing I've created for figuring out your value proposition. So in the case of what we just looked at, it's for people who want to eat healthily but struggle to get enough vegetables. These easy open salad toppers provide access to prepared healthy vegetables that let people add veggies to anything that they happen to be eating. So Then the other part about value proposition, which for you as entrepreneurs, this is where you really get to dig into sometimes the things that motivated you to become a food entrepreneur. Many people I've met who go into the food business from other careers, they have some impetus. Maybe it's a health condition. Maybe it's that they come from a culture where food is very, you know, unique and interesting and important, and they want to bring that to other people. So the bonus question I always ask people to work into their value proposition is, why you? What makes you the one who should do this particular project, and why should you be the brand owner? Sometimes it's not there. Sometimes you're an ex-lawyer and you just want to make hummus, and it doesn't actually line up. But other times there's a really great story behind the whole thing, and you can get people's attention even more. So this is a great, I think, a really, it is a simplification, and this isn't going to be all the work you do, but it's a great way to get started when you have so many ideas and you're not sure, you know, who you want to buy your product. Because when you say to one of those gatekeepers, everyone is going to want to buy my product, they don't buy it. They know that that's not true. And you know, in your heart, you probably know it's not true. We want to be a universal product, but really, there's very few things that everybody buys. Maybe salt and vegetable oil, you know. Otherwise, our pantries can be quite different. So another little tip sheet for you, you know, when you're articulating to these gatekeepers, getting your sales pitch together is what I'm really saying. Being able to, you know, highlight the enormity of the problem. How many people are in your target market? Why is solving this problem going to be important for them, maybe important for the world? And then telling them how you have the unique and wonderful way of solving this problem, and distilling it down into that little sentence I just showed you the Mad Lib for, and then establishing your credibility. Maybe if you're not someone who has a way to you know, have a born and bred reason to be the owner of this brand, maybe it's that you invested in working with scientists or technology. Maybe you've invented something. There's almost always a reason why you are the right person. Sometimes it's as simple as, I have the highest food safety standards of anybody who makes this. That can't be, you know, it might not be as great as telling a story about how you know, roamed through, you know, Africa for 4 years searching for the perfect, you know, herb, and brought it back to Canada. But it's still a great way to reinforce why you should be the one to sell this product to your customer. Because if you've got a good product, someone's going to compete with you, and you need to be ready for that. So once you've got your value proposition, then as you think about the store, and even if it's an online store, what's your position? Why are you in this store? And this is sometimes overwhelming. And I remember for years, actually, already being a food professional, walking through grocery stores and going, why are there so many kinds of toothpaste? Why, you know, how can this aisle be so big and so full? And it took me a while and a lot of experience to kind of break it down. So your value proposition is great, but lots of other people are going to have the same story, as I just said. And sometimes being first isn't great. So a lot of new businesses and new brands fail. And interestingly, sometimes the people who come next are the winners. So I can give you an example. I once worked for a company. Before I worked for them, they launched this product that was chilled, and it was a whole meal. And all you had to do was pop it in the microwave and it would steam cook. Now, they were a frozen food company. All kinds of problems getting that to market. Consumers weren't used to buying at that point. You know, it seems weird now, but we're talking like 15 years ago. People at that time weren't used to buying everything fresh and ready to cook. Meal kits didn't exist. So the marketing was very difficult. Fast forward about 5 years after they withdrew from the market, another big frozen food company launched the almost exact same product, except in the freezer section. They knew their cold chain really well, and people were ready for it, and they won a Product of the Year award. So, the name was different, but what was in the container, almost exactly the same. So remember, other people are going to learn from your mistakes. So try to troubleshoot as many of your mistakes as you can, so that you you're the 53%. So we call your position in the marketplace your unique selling position, unique selling point, sometimes people say. And it is the way that you tell that buyer how and why you need to take somebody else's spot on the store shelf. So all of these products have the same value proposition. They all sell the convenience of pizza that you can have at home without having to leave the house, without having to pick up the phone or go to, whatever, or go to your, your Uber Eats app. And it's interesting because they're very different. So I think if you, just take a look at these products, you can understand that the person who buys the Chef Boyardee pepperoni pizza ravioli is not the person who buys this flatbread onion pizza. And when I say person, I don't mean the person that you are all the time, every day. I'm talking more about your need state. So if you're very depressed and your boyfriend broke up with you and you haven't washed your hair in 3 days, you might eat this cold pepperoni pizza ravioli out of a can with a fork. But if maybe you've got a hot date with somebody who's coming over for a glass of wine and you've put on perfume, potentially you're going to pull out this fancy flatbread pizza and serve it to them. So when I say person, just remember that different people, consumers, buy different foods for different reasons on different days and for different need states. So remember we talked about that carrot idea, right? So you've got your value proposition. You're in the carrot business. What do you do to understand your positioning? Well, you can break it down into trend buckets. So if we go to a carrot hummus kind of a thing, we've got convenience, we've got health, probably we have local, because carrots are grown right in the Holland Marsh, very close to where all of us are today. Say you go for some really cool, harissa flavored soup, then we've got ethnic and we have experience. You're bringing restaurant food home. And if you're taking a concept like French fries, making it with carrots, then you've got this great new twist and you've made fit into the snack category. So this is super helpful for getting down to your positioning. Sorry, my dog boss is here again. I do apologize. He's distracting me. Anyhow, long story short, back to the actual presentation. So we talked about your value proposition all being the same. So then something I like to do is to graph these items so that you can see where there's an unserved market. So this is actually, back in the day, I worked for a company where we made little snack size pizzas, and we were losing volume sales because, it was an older product. People like moms were, really becoming focused on ingredients, etc. So I spent months with one of my marketing colleagues, and we sold all across North America for this company. So we literally bought pizzas from every region of Canada and the US, frozen ones, and we did a wash down. So if you're not familiar with a wash down, we literally took every product apart, weighed how much cheese there was, how much sauce there was, how much dough there was. We did an exhaustive analysis of what all these products were like so that we really understood our competition. Then we took and we graphed out where where they were positioned. So they all obviously had the same value proposition. They were all pizza. And what we found was this opportunity gap in this gourmet, small size format. We developed a great concept. I didn't develop the product, I developed the concept, and that's important. And we went to our customers, and I'm talking about places like Costco, US and Canada, big grocers, and we showed them the concept at a sales meeting, and we got their feedback. And we found out from them that they loved the idea, that they really agreed with us, that this was a gap. Went back, worked with R&D, worked with supply chain folks, got a costing worked up on what it would cost to make this, package it, ship it, get it on shelf, including marketing it. So did a cost forecast, and we're going to come back to cost forecast in a couple moments. Went back to my customers, still haven't made a pizza, by the way. Just have, a little mock-up of a package. Haven't spent any money other than brain money. And we could not find a price point that we could make money on and that our customers were willing to launch that product. So we never developed it. And I tell you that not to be like, oh, poor Dana, you wasted all your time, because I think of that as a huge victory. I did not waste my time. I saved my company millions and millions and millions of dollars because we did not develop a product and then try to sell it. We did customer discovery. We went out there, we talked to the people who could make decisions, and we discovered that, yes, they liked the idea, but they weren't willing to pay for it. Now, whether they were right, whether their consumers couldn't take the price point we needed to reach that, good quality ingredient space that we thought, we needed to be gourmet and small, I won't know that. But you know what? We had lots of other ideas. So we just went back to them. And it was, I think, a huge victory and a really good lesson. You've got to start talking to people who are your potential customers and your potential consumers as soon as you can. It's information is power, because this is your business. It's not your hobby. If it's your hobby, then yeah, make whatever you want. But if you're trying to make this your job, these kinds of steps are super important. So what do you do next? Well, it's once you have figured out your positioning, you have figured out your value proposition, you've got your customers excited, consumers are willing to pay for your product, then do some more research. I know you're like, what, for God's sakes, woman, when are you going to actually sell some products? But you want to get as much of your launch right as possible. And a lot of that is concerned with pricing. So often people say, well, I'm working in my business. I am investing. I don't have to charge a lot for my product at the beginning because I'm working for free. But you can't always work for free. And raising the price of your product is almost impossible. So remember, when you are working on figuring out what the price should be, you need to factor in the future of your product. What is it going to cost to have a distributor? What's it going to cost to have staff? What's it going to cost to have an audited and inspected facility? All of those things. And the great news is, before you have those costs, you'll make lots of money, and you'll have that money to save and invest in the growth of your business. If you go out with too low a price, with the wrong claims, you're going to eat through all of your cash. You're going to have to redevelop lots and lots of your work, like your packaging, your marketing. And truthfully, the learning curve can be very expensive. So here's just some low cost market research tips. Hashtag searches. What are people looking for? That can help you to hone in on the language you use on your claims. Are people looking for gourmet pizza, or are they looking for artisan pizza? That kind of thing. There's lots of, and I call them spy tools. My friends in technology, think I'm being dramatic there, but there's tools like SME Rush where you can basically take a snapshot of what all of the competition in a certain space are doing and saying on social media. So you can see what's working for them, how you want to, what they're doing, so you can differentiate. And these are they're a little bit complex for somebody who didn't grow up in the cyber age like me, but they're not that once you see it once, you'll get the hang of it. Doing polls with SurveyMonkey. If you have, a group, a mailing list from being at, say, the farmers market or a festival, you ask these people, hey, do you want to co-create with me? What do you think of this package? What do you think of that claim? Would you buy this? Who would you give this to as a gift? There's a lot of quick and easy ways that if you approach it with, in a way that's respectful and doesn't exhaust your mailing list, that you can get some great information. And here's just some of the questions you could ask. Social media, they're always changing the algorithms, which is exhausting, but you still can do some A/B testing. And by that, I mean, you put out 2 ads, even if your product doesn't exist yet, put out 2 ads for a product, spend a few $100s targeting them, see which one gets the most clicks. That's a really great way to validate claims, validate names, and to understand, because Facebook will give you, and I believe Instagram as well, a report of the demographic attributes of the people who clicked on particular things. And you can also buy a mailing list. That's a bit risky because of the rules around sharing email lists and that kind of thing. But there are still ways to do that legitimately. And just remember what I said earlier about Henry Ford. People will tell you what their problem is, and they will tell you what they think they need. But don't ask them to tell you what product they want. Much better, instead of saying to me, Dana, what are you going to eat for dinner tonight? I'm going to tell you what I want myself to hear. I'm going to say, I'm going home and I'm going to make a big, beautiful salad. And then I'm going to drink 3 glasses of water and go to yoga and be in bed by 10. Much better to say, Dana, what did you have for dinner last night? And I would tell you, quite truthfully, a big pork chop with mashed potatoes. and then I drank 3 glasses of wine and ate a cookie and went to bed at about 11:30. So my past behavior, much more insightful for you than this idealized vision of myself, of who I want to be tonight. So feasibility, also very important. How are you going to make your product? Can you get the ingredients at affordably and regularly? Can you bring them into the country? That's even more important these days with all of the supply chain issues. How fast can you get to market? Do you have, to get a patent, do you have to go through some regulatory challenge? A lot of people raced into the beverage market thinking they'd be able to sell CBD enhanced beverages as soon as marijuana became legal in Canada. And guess what? They still can only sell them in these cloistered little locations where you've got to be screened to go in. They certainly aren't in the grocery store yet. Can other people knock you off quickly? Do you have a trade secret? Is there something you can do that makes it really difficult for people to copy you? That's fantastic if there is. And if they can make it, can they promote it better? Do you have all the right people around you to help you get your product to the attention of the people who say they want to buy it? So, it took me, I don't know how many times I did an exercise with entrepreneurs where I asked them to do a forecast, and they all forecasted their sales, and they found it so hard because, of course, they had no history. They didn't know. It was all guessing, and they felt like I was wasting their time. And then I realized I had to say, no, what's your cost forecast? So I already told you a bit about this when I talked to you a few minutes ago about pricing. Figure out, what is it going to cost to make your product and make money with it. That's so much more important. And if you can't do it, like say, I don't know, say you need a very specialized type of vanilla or saffron or something that you can only get from one war-torn corner of the world, and that's, you know, what your unique selling point is. Well, guess what? You're never going to be able to guarantee your supply or your costs, and that could be a deal breaker. It could be a reason why your product doesn't already exist. But really understanding your costs, knowing when you're incurring costs and could incur costs is super important. A lot of times a new business owner won't know this. You don't know what a broker costs. You don't know what listing fees are. You don't maybe even know what trade spend is. If we had more time, I'd dig into all of those things with you. But the good news is there's lots of people who can coach you through this. There are entrepreneurship centers who have food experts working with them. There are contractors, people who've done this for a living, who are available to hire for hourly and project basis. I know of at least one who's on the call today. Hello, John Hale. And there's places like Niagara College where, again, you've got that expertise. So all this upfront stuff, super important. And I'm going to hammer the pricing thing one more time because this is a typical curve. So as you can see, you're probably somewhere around this early stage where you're just starting to grow. And this is so much fun. It's so exciting to sell cases and cases of stuff. And as you can see, you hit peak popularity, but then trends change. Competition comes into the market. And generally speaking, your sales start to level off. They don't always go down this far. Sometimes they plateau and you have this really great product that, you know, keeps on chugging. But the fact of the matter is by the time you're at that stage, you absolutely have competition, and you will definitely be spending more on marketing and on all the costs of sales, which again is a topic for another day. So as you can see, your profits really don't go up and match that level of sales. So this is why your pricing is so important. If you go out too low, you're never going to even get above that black line. So I'll get off my pricing soapbox there now. It's so difficult because right now, of course, all we're talking about is interest rates and inflation, and the temptation to make your product accessible is very high, and it's very discouraging to think about, you know, how you go out there and tell somebody, yeah, no, this is $10. But remember, there's kombucha that's $6 a bottle out there on the shelf. So somebody's buying it. So there are people who are willing to spend if you've got what they want. So that's what I had to share with you today about the, sort of the core lessons that I've learned. I also have a little bit of an appendix here, some things I love that I think you might like. Start with why. This book, when I read it, it's not a long book, but really it's just that core first 100 pages that are so influential. The rest is all really just examples. There's also a TED Talk video that Simon Sinek did that encapsulates the book very well. This is probably the most important book for entrepreneurs generally that I can recommend, because it really helps you to get to remember that bonus question I talked about, like not just why it's a great product, but why your company. So highly recommend this book. This is an excellent video about understanding consumer needs. Clay Christensen's a Harvard professor, and he's brilliant at understanding and figuring out why people do certain things. This video is all about the job people hire your product to do. So if you remember when I gave that example of that pizza consumer who one day they need their pizza to do the job of consoling them, and another day they need the pizza to help them prop up their personal brand. This is what his video gets into. Out of all the entrepreneurship books out there, Disciplined Entrepreneurship, the workbook, is fantastic. It is basically an incubator program in one book. If you follow the exercises in this book, you will avoid so many mistakes. You will be so structured. Can't recommend it highly enough. It's from MIT. They have a companion book that just explains and talks about things. But if you're on a limited budget and you're not somebody who wants to delve into a lot of, text, get this book. And then, I mentioned to you that I'd customize that value proposition canvas. This is, of course, the Bible for that. And if you've used the business model canvas, you'd be familiar with this company, the Australian company Strategizers. So those are some little takeaways for you if you want to get more in depth on some of the things that I've mentioned to you today. But if there's interest and time, I'm happy to take some questions and to hear a little bit about you and your businesses.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. That was an excellent presentation, and I appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge with our audience. And it was a pleasure to meet your boss as well.
Yes, he's coming and going. My boss is very he didn't see me typing, so he thought that I was slacking.
Well, we don't discriminate against pets here at the Small Business Centers. In fact, Rob's wife owns a pet boutique in West Niagara, so we're accustomed to having dogs and pets as our companions around here.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
So while we still have Dana, and as we're a little ahead of the schedule, if there's anyone who has questions they want to share in the chat, we have maybe 10 or 15 minutes extra that we can try and get some of your questions answered. And I know Victoria's in the background. She'll be sharing any questions that come through. And as we wait, if you own a food business, if you've started and you have a website or you're having your name, feel free to make your plug in the event chat. Direct people to your website, whatever it may be. This is an opportunity to connect with people like yourselves who are in the local food scene.
Well, Dean, maybe I can ask you a question while we wait for some to roll in. What do you see as the most common questions that food entrepreneurs coming into your office are asking? Maybe I can address some of those.
For sure. So, and hopefully a lot of those questions will get answered over our speaker series. I think that a lot of what we hear is a combination of, on the one hand, the rules and regulation side of the equation. Like, okay, I've grown up in a family of culinary enthusiasts. My mother and my father was a chef, and my father's father was a chef, and so on. And now here's my idea. It's a beverage product. It's a food product. Yeah. How do I make it so that I'm compliant with all of our regulations and can actually sell it in the marketplace? That's one side.
And that's always so frustrating, especially for people who want to do something new and different. And I've lived this myself. When I was running Food Starter, we had, I don't know, probably like 80 or 90 clients at a time, right? And there was always somebody trying to do something with dairy or with meat, which was really complex. And you'd call the people who own the inspections and the regulatory, so whether it was the provincial or the federal government, and they would just say, here's the Meat Act. Here's the Dairy Act. And you'd be like, no, I have that. I've read it. But what I don't understand is, can I do this specifically? And they can't, I guess, tell you what you can do. What you have to do, you have to develop a relationship with them. And sometimes the best way to do that is to hire a regulatory consultant or to go to a lawyer who specializes in that kind of thing. There's a few out there that are fantastic. Of course, that takes money. But what you have to do is keep going back with a different scenario and getting to go that way. So I can give you an example. My husband, Martin Coupry, is a well-known Canadian chef, and he owned a restaurant at Bay and Bloor in Toronto for many years, and he got really interested in cheese making. So he started making cheese in the restaurant, not to sell in a package, but just to sell in the restaurant, to do cheese plates. And he got tons of press. It was a really big deal. But it turned out that there were, if anybody wanted to take their cheese home, say they didn't finish it, that wasn't legal, and he kind of got into trouble for it. And now it's interesting, because of, I think, people like him, the regulations have changed, and he's opening a new restaurant in Caledon in the summertime, and he's already knows he's allowed to make cheese and even sell it. But it took him going back to Omafra over and over again and saying, can I do this? Can I do that? Talking to dairy farmers of Ontario, talking to people who are decision makers to make them understand, what the risks were. The other problem a lot of food entrepreneurs run into is that as your business grows, especially if you're making something that is high risk, like say a meat product, you end up, to get into bigger stores, you have to meet higher and higher standards of food safety. So there's a lot of different types of auditing programs. HACCP, of course, we've all heard about, which is really a system. It's not an auditing program, but that's one that people are familiar with. And the problem is, to be efficient as an entrepreneur, you wear as many hats as you can. So if you're making hot dogs all by yourself in your very clean, hermetically sealed space, and there's no one there to watch you make the hot dogs and put down that at 222 you took the temperature of the batch of meat, you're not compliant with these regulatory things. So sometimes you have to hire people to watch you do your work, which of course makes no business sense. So there's some folks innovating in that space now. There's a company out of, I think it's Nova Scotia. It might be New Brunswick. I think it's Nova Scotia, called Food Bite. And they have created this whole suite of food safety compliance types of tools that apparently the government's happy with, and you can use to get around that kind of problem. So unfortunately, to get through that regulatory stuff, you've got to be patient, and you got to like solving puzzles, because it's sometimes as simple. I had somebody at Food Starter making ice cream sandwiches. And you're like, yeah, that's not making ice cream. He bought the ice cream from an inspected, certified, totally compliant supplier. And all he was doing at Food Starter was baking the cookies, scooping the ice cream, making the sandwich, and packaging it. They did not like that at Omafra until the entrepreneur said, well, it's, blah, 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 and, and the coconut oil. And the inspector said, coconut oil? Turned out he was using 1% coconut oil in the formulation of his ice cream, and it was no longer ice cream, and we were compliant. So, crazy stories, right?
I know Volker from Venture Niagara, who will be on the event later on, will appreciate your story about cheese making, because I know he, in his time, that's something he enjoys doing. And Dana, we've had some other questions come into the chat here. I'm not sure if you have the ability to see on the side.
Let's see here.
You'll see there's been a number that have come through. Some have been answered in the chat.
Great. Yeah, it's hard for me to see which ones are for me.
Yeah,
so I see.
So, for example, Elva's asking, can you talk more about price points? How to not price too high to make things inaccessible, but not price too low. And I know you had that great slide on pricing, and it's not a perfect science, but
it's not. It's well, and I want to preface, Elva, that I'm not a finance person, and I'm not I'm not the best at pricing. I'm really good at working with people who are good at that. So long story short, from my perspective, understanding where your break-even point is, understanding where you're going to be making a particular amount of margin that you're comfortable with, meaning that, operationally you can sustain your business and make some money. And then understanding, sort of what the like, woohoo, I won the lotto pricing is comes down to testing. Going out. So farmers markets are fantastic for this, festivals where you can say to people, how much do you think this costs? Start to, and instead of telling them, start to get that. And, how much do you usually, if, say you make something that's giftable, how much do you usually spend on a gift? And starting to get that kind of sensitivity. But it really comes down to testing and to where you are and what your target market is. As Dean said, it's not really a science. It's tricky, but there's lots of people out there who are way better at it than me. And
Well, I totally
and I
agree at the
think
farmers markets. And in Niagara, we're lucky that we have some awesome farmers markets. And in Niagara Falls, we'll have a new one being built and hopefully completed later on this year. But I hear you, Dana. That's kind of a
fantastic.
good grassroots environment to do some trial and error.
Yeah, the only problem with farmers markets is that the demographic is often very, if you're not going for sort of that person who's really interested in local and in the
Sure.
eating experience, it's not always great. But if that's your target market, fantastic. But find out where your target market is, and and get there. If your target market is all about racing, well, get yourself at the racetrack and
For sure.
see what those folks have to say.
Dana, another question. If people would like to connect with you or the CFIN
Yeah.
after this presentation, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, as I can go put that QR code back out, but oh my God, that's my dog again. I'm so sorry. He's really freaked out by wind, and it's very windy where I live right now. But to get in touch with CFIN, please go to our website, CFIN, CFIN-RCIA.ca. You can also email me. I'm Dana at CFIN. And of course, we're on Instagram and LinkedIn and all of those things. And I would encourage folks, even if you're at a super early stage, to connect with us. We have regional innovation directors across the country. Your Ontario Regional Innovation Director is Linda Fox. She's on the call today. I've been seeing messages on our teams come through from her, where she's made a couple of comments about my slides and things. So I have another boss on the call. So please connect with Linda or with me. Linda, if you can throw your contact info in the chat if you're still here, that would be fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. I think we have time for a couple more questions. I'm just going through my
That's
list
great.
here. I see we have, let's see, we have Faith. Faith has a question for you. She says, what advice do you have for someone with a new product idea in the preserve space, but feels overwhelmed by the undertaking of the research, not just about developing recipes, but launching as well?
It's tough, isn't it, Faith? Because when you are an entrepreneur, you usually have one, really strong skill set, but yet you are expected to be a generalist and be able to do everything. There are a lot of ways that you can outsource some of that work. I know that the University of Guelph has a master's program where you can hire a group of master's students doing their capstone project to help you with market research. That's a great option, and I'm sure that other universities and colleges have it. When Lyndon comes on later, maybe he can tell you about what is available at Niagara College, because they have a fantastic suite of resources there. Maybe this is an opportunity to hook up with a partner. Maybe not somebody that you give, half of your business to, but maybe 5%. Maybe you find somebody who is really a great marketer, a great researcher, and you say, hey, you take on this part, and if you meet all these milestones and do all these things, once we're profitable, you will, own a bit of this company. That's collaboration can get you a long way.
Definitely, definitely. And moving on, we have a question from Carrie. Carrie asks, I would like to know any tips on developing a sustainable and resilient local supply chain.
Well, that is on so many people's lips these days. It depends on what you're buying, Gary. But if you are using something that is, made or grown in your local area, developing relationships with those vendors, those growers, and letting them know in advance what you want, and maybe even contributing if you can some money towards guaranteeing that you've got first right of refusal on what they produce is always helpful. It's very commonly done by big brands. You'll often, when you're driving along and you see a field of oats, it's not uncommon for a company like Quaker or Kellogg to have bought that whole field of oats and to have specified exactly what variety it is. But as you start out, I think just being a good neighbor goes a long way. So being clear with your suppliers about what you want, paying them on time, helping to promote them, really treating them like a partner, and not like just a transaction, goes a long way to having people want to bail you out when they can. But I was on a call earlier this week with some entrepreneurs who are in market and have scaling businesses, and the one company uses sunflower oil that comes from Ukraine. So they're like, what are we going to do? And as it turned out, another person on the call knew a company that produces sunflower oil here in Ontario, and they were able to message them. But there's nothing they could do because everybody's looking for sunflower oil right now. So it's having a backup for your backup is
Yeah.
I think what we've learned this last few years is so important. So if you're formulating with sunflower oil, make sure you do a test and you have the nutritionals done with canola or another, oil that could work, so that if you've got to make a pivot, you're ready, to have that backup plan in place.
Awesome. And Dana, I think we have time for one more question. And
Great.
I think this is a good question to wrap up the conversation. It's from Maria. Maria asks, can you provide any insights on the impacts that the pandemic has had on the food manufacturing and food retail space?
Well, that's a huge question. We could talk the whole hour about it. But some of the most interesting things, I think, are how the lines between grocery and food service have blurred. So I'm sure we've all seen that now that we're going back to restaurants, that many of them are now selling the ingredients that they use. They, calling themselves grocerants or bodegas or what have you. Certainly, we're seeing people want to access food in whatever way they can that suits them. They're not typically that really willing to pay for it, though. So CFIN did a webinar. We call them experiences because we want our webinars to leave people feeling changed. We want them to have new ideas when they leave. I guess about 2 weeks ago. It's available now on our YouTube channel, and I think in the Media Hub section of our website. It was called New Pathways to the Pantry. And I interviewed three folks, one food tech trend and investor from France who had this global view, and then two Ontario entrepreneurs, one Chris Linney from a company called Good Good that is setting up cafes that do like 30-minute delivery in the Toronto area, and another Khalil from Crafty Ramen in Guelph. And we talked about how they are creating new business models that actually accommodate the post-pandemic consumer, and how they're going about justifying having bricks and mortar and e-commerce. So that might be an interesting webinar for some of you to check out on demand.
Excellent. Any last questions before we wrap up? Lots of good comments in the chat I can see here, Dana. And if
That's
there are
awesome.
no other
Thanks for your
questions,
attention, folks.
any any remarks you'd like to make as we wrap up? Anything you'd like to reiterate as we close up this session?
Yeah, you know, entrepreneurs, I think they're born. They're not really made, and they're used to taking risks. I sometimes call them the true authentic entrepreneurs time vampires, because they're so passionate, and they just want to get every bit of information from anyone they meet, and that's so fantastic. But just make sure you're channeling it towards something that you want to do for a long time and that you really care about, because it's exciting and it's rewarding to be an entrepreneur, but it is hard, and just be 100% sure that you and your family and the people that you take on as partners, that you all understand what you're getting into, and that you're all still going to be able to talk to each other in the future, because the stakes are high when you're an entrepreneur, and particularly if you're working with family, make sure you really think that through, and that it's all very clearly defined who does what, because I have seen occasionally food businesses do really, really well, but at the sacrifice of sometimes friendships and family relationships. So remember, it's your job, it's not your hobby, and think about it that way. So.
Yeah, there are some major lifestyle considerations for anyone who is considering the entrepreneurial journey as a path for them. So, Dana, again, thank you very much for you
It's a pleasure.
and for the Canada Food Innovation Network for participating in this event. I hope everyone learned something today. And Dana, thank you very much. And people have an option to connect with you and the organization afterwards.
Absolutely. We please stay in touch. We want to hear all your stories and help you to find the resources that you need to succeed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana.
Bye.
So this is a good segue into the next portion of the event. Dana talked a lot about, the leap it takes for someone to jump into entrepreneurship. And one of the things you can do to improve your prospects of success is do your due diligence. And that is exactly why we are introducing you to 4 different speakers from different areas within the food regulation or food service network, to hopefully give you a better sense of what resources and what services are out there to help you start and grow your business. And we're a bit ahead of time. We're ahead of time, and this is great because this allows our speakers a bit more time on stage to talk about exactly it is what they do. And I would like to welcome the first speaker from our speakers series to the stage, Lyndon Ashton from the Niagara College Food and Wine Institute. Hello, Lyndon.
Hello. How are you, Dean?
I'm doing excellent here in Niagara Falls. Thank you for joining us. I always tell people who are interested in entering the food economy that we are privileged in Niagara to have a world-class culinary program right in our backyards. That's not something that every region has. And in particular, the Food and Wine Institute that you and your team manage is a tremendous resource for people who are looking to scale food-based businesses. So, Lyndon, thank you for joining us today. And I know you have a presentation you'll be sharing with us. So if you'd like, go ahead and open that up, and we will we'll hand you over the virtual mic.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I'd just like to say thank you very much to yourself, your kind words, and also to Dana. I mean, Dana and I know each other, quite well, and just a phenomenal presentation, and one chock full of all the right type of information that you can take and do something with. The enterprise centers themselves, pardon me, my presentation seems to have a life of its own here, so just give me one moment. I might just bring it up in a different slide format. But the enterprise centers themselves are fantastic resources. I myself am a certified economic developer. I've been doing that for probably about 15 years, of which I certainly include my time at the college. But the centers are near and dear to my heart, having worked at your center, Dean, and as one of the first business information officers, I believe, in Ontario, formally titled in that role. So I know just how much help and resource is available. So I'm glad to see that this type of event is happening, and it's phenomenal. And Victoria, I see the note. Yes, you've already lived up 3 times over. So
Awesome, Lyndon.
sure.
Thank you very much. And I've been to the Food and Wine Institute. It's really phenomenal what you have going on there. So I'm going to hand the stage over to you,
Yeah.
my friend, and the next 20 minutes or so, a little longer,
Perfect.
are all yours. Thank you.
So one of the things that I'd like to do with everybody is I've got a 4-minute video that I'd like to show, and it really captures how we work with folks just like yourselves. It's got a company that is fantastic called False Ox. We've worked with them, we've helped them. But one of the things that I'd like to do, after having heard what Dana had to say and how wonderfully everything was laid out, I was taking diligent notes, and there's a lot of key intersection points in the pathway to success, if you will, that Dana had laid out, that we come in and can act as your supporter in this. So as I go through this presentation, I'm going to take about 6-7 minutes to talk in the different areas of what it is that we do, so you get this kind of contextual understanding of how we might fit in. But then I'm going to drill it right down and pinpoint those specific areas that Dana had mentioned and where we fit in as a potential solution provider for you. So first and foremost, we are Niagara College. There is the Canadian Food and Wine Institute, which is the academic programming that we have. And being a college of firsts in Canada, we have a number of different things that we bring to the table. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary of Canada's first teaching winery and vineyard, 10th anniversary of Canada's first craft brewery and hop yard. About 3 or 4 years ago, we launched Canada's first craft distillery program. And since 2013, we've had a very unique culinary program called the Culinary Innovation Food Technology Program that brings together both food science and culinary arts together with a focus on food product production, food processing. And you couple this with all of the different entrepreneurship programs we have through our School of Business and the cross-disciplinary amount of effort that goes into program design to ensure that when we are working with our clients and with our students and training the next generation that you all require to have in your operations in order to help move them forward effectively, that they are being trained to think in both a function, because we can make almost anything we want to make. I mean, everybody can make something, but also from a finance perspective, because at the end of the day, this is about business. Entrepreneurship, yes, is about running your own business, having the freedom to make those decisions that you want to because you're not employed by somebody. But it also means you need to keep the eye on the prize, which is we must generate revenue and we must generate profit, because if we don't, not only will we not survive, we are not going to grow. So with respect to what we do, we have an underpinning ethos, if you will, that drives everything we do across our different innovation centers. And that is that there is always an industry partner, always an expert, whether this is faculty, full-time, part-time, highly qualified personnel as staff that work at our centers, whether it's experts that we have on contract that work with us to fill in niche kind of areas that are not necessarily in our value proposition, as you heard about before, but that help us build out that fulsome client experience for holistic solutions, and then also the students. But keeping in mind that when you work with us at these different innovation centers, these students themselves have been hired by us and are working as research assistants or potentially graduates as research associates. And what they are doing is they make up kind of the core labor force that we have, and then they are guided, supported, and managed and led by our chief scientists, by our technicians, our technologists, by our food and beverage experts, and what have you. So quality control and assurance is always premium, and it's always at the heart of what we're doing. But it's also about building an experience where we can help train you. We can help you build capacity in your business through reciprocal knowledge exchange, and you're actually participating in training the next generation of talent at the same time. One of the cool things about this is that often means that services come a little bit less expensive than they may if you were going out to, a fully operational consulting firm or something like that. And that's not to say these things in industry are bad. They're not at all. We're here to support industry, not to compromise it, but it means that you can get into an environment where it's focused on assisting you in de-risking and also enabling you to move forward in an understanding that cost is always a challenge on the small business and the entrepreneur's plate. So we have 4 centers and 1 solution pathway. Ourselves, we live in this area right here, which is the Canadian Food and Wine Institute Innovation Center. Don't let the moniker fool you. We do much more than just wine, as well as food. We have an Agriculture and Environmentals Technology Innovation Center, and also an advanced manufacturing one. One of the reasons why this little red item is here is because we have a number of different funders. A lot of them are federal, some provincial, but we have something known as Technology Access Center grants, and that underpins 2 of the centers that we have, one in manufacturing and one in food production. And that allows us to be part of a network of 60 of these centers across Canada. And it means that if we can't solve a situation or a problem ourselves, we can tap into this network and find solutions. We also operate like a business. Even though we're part of the college, we have our own value chain. So there are public and private partners that are a part of that. And again, this is all about bringing together the right resources to assist you. One of the excellent aspects, and certainly a competitive advantage of working with us, is that we are focused on growing the industry, and we ensure that all of the intellectual property that's developed, be it process or formulation or a combination of the both, is signed back to our clients. We are focused on supporting economic, workforce, and talent development. And the way that we do that is by having you work with us and work with our students as researchers, train them at the same time. But ultimately, it's you that carries forward with that IP. It's you that are responsible for finishing the commercialization process in the market. And that means that you retain that. We want to see you grow, generate more wealth, which leads to job creation and more opportunity for talent to get into the fields of their choice. One of the things that was emphasized through this entire period in the beginning of the beginning of the session by Dana was the importance of market research, secondary and primary market research, and getting a very fulsome understanding of where you're positioned and where you're going to go. We can help in this manner. There are the enterprise centers, but we also have a school of business, and we have the business and commercialization solutions center. And they work very closely with us. And what they do is they help you with the different types of deep primary research that needs to be done to help you better understand, should you make a certain move? Is this the right thing? Where are the trends in industry right now? How could you position yourself within that matrix? And it was mentioned, that opportunity area, helping you find that opportunity area so that there's a greater likelihood of market uptake for your product. Again, we look at it through function and finance. We could help you make probably almost anything, but the real question is, why should we, and should we? So these are things that we can help you with as well. So we are a leading edge food and beverage accelerator. We connect companies with innovative solutions from concept to shelf. So we take you along the whole pathway. When there was a lot of discussion with Dana about the whole notion of ideation. So ideation is something that you need to be doing, but where we come in is once you've come up with that concept that you've said, yes, this is the concept I want to go with, and here's the reason why, here's the evidence, then we step in and say, all right, we can help you develop that concept. And then we're going to start looking at all of those other really key areas that come into play with the notion of feasibility and feasibility studies, where you have that question, how do I make it? Well, we can help you with how you make it. How fast are you going to get to market? That's something you need to figure out, but we can help you understand how you're going to find the right ingredients, or we're going to develop it, more importantly, in a manner that has ingredients that are readily available and we are forecasting would be available for a certain period of time. I mean, force majeure aside, we can't predict wars and things like that, but I think you get the point. And then also, could others knock it off? So it's all about helping you to de-risk that process. We bring to bear different financial resources. So there are funds that we secure that we have access to, that if our clients meet certain eligibility criteria, which are often not that high, they may be having been in business for only 2 years and maybe having a maximum of 2 employees, which could include yourself as a working operator, a working owner as well. And that helps offset some of those costs associated with it. So you see here, there's an example of how we match the small business and your ideas with different types of cash that we can leverage. And having Venture Niagara here in Volker is great, because everything that we do, there is a cost to doing it, but there may be ways that you can be assisted financially to bring your portion of that capital to the table, so that we can leverage it 1-to-1 or sometimes even 1-to-2 in order to get a higher return on investment to build out the budget we need in order to be able to support you in your product development needs. And here's an example of an entrepreneur that we supported with. We developed a Sobri Canada's first 0% alcohol gin with true mouth burn and whatnot in 2019. And just before the holiday season in 2020, the gentleman went on Dragon's Den, secured funding through Dragon's Den. In the interim period, we'd already developed another zero tequila for him. And so now this person is going even further with their product. So that's kind of an example of how we can help folks. We have a very diverse team. We have highly qualified personnel. We have a raft of different food scientists, research chefs, culinary experts, but we also have a number of risk assessment, food safety, and regulatory experts. And when the questions were coming forward about, well, how do we get this kind of help? We don't really understand. I mean, these are tough things to navigate, and you need experience, knowledge, and education in them. Well, we bring those people to the table. We conduct risk assessments, feasibility studies, regulatory assessments, and these are all grounded in, once you get to that point of your ideation and you want to start with the concept, that's how we help you. Or you've already created a few things, you've got them on the market, and now you're looking at a different product category, or you're looking at trying to capture some more market share in X, Y, or Z product categories. Then when you get to the nuts and bolts of making it happen, that's where we come in and support. So I'd mentioned the different types of approaches that we have. There's fee for service. There's the funded types of projects that we can bring to bear. We operate like a business, and we operate as close to the speed of business as possible. So we do understand the sense of urgency behind some things, but it's our job to also help you slow down a bit and understand that there are certain things that need to be done in a certain order. Otherwise, you're going to get too far ahead of yourself, and you're going to start wasting or costing yourself unnecessary money when you don't have that much to begin with. So we want to try and avoid those situations, and that's where we help as well. This just gives you an example of the spectrum of products and of services that we provide, ranging from product development, beverage processing, food safety regulatory, laboratory services, and sensory evaluation. COVID-19 threw a bit of a monkey wrench into that, but as things start to open, regulations loosen a bit, not only can we assist with the product development, the concept development, to the prototypes that you're looking to to scale in the way that you want. We also conduct consumer acceptance studies, and we have a lot of partners in the ecosystem as well, like Vineland Research and what have you, where we can assist you with your actual consumer acceptance studies as well. So we have unique expertise in that we're a beverage center of excellence, but that doesn't mean that we don't work in food. We very much do. I know that at least one of our clients is here today and may be able to share some experiences with you about how we operate and how, the work we've done with them, not only on a food product development side, but also on a manufacturing side. Again, remembering we have these different centers. So it's not just about one kind of element of support. We could provide a holistic solution to you, depending on what it is that you're needing. And if you happen to be a small operator that has their own manufacturing facility as well. We have one of our prides and joys that we've been working on for a number of years. We are focused on filling market gaps, and one of the ones that we realized is a real issue, particularly with beverage and liquid products, is that it's okay if you get to the point where you've got a prototype and you might be taking it to a farmer's market, you might be trying to get this out through trade shows or what have you. But what do you do when you go to a co-packer and the co-packer says that the minimum for them is 40,000 liters? Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to develop this properly, safely? How can it be okay for people to consume this and even pay for it? Well, we have a solution for that, and that is our beverage and pilot processing lab. So we've launched this already. We're doing research and development projects through it now for tasting and testing. And as of the summer, we'll be opening up for small batch short runs, which is essentially a pre-co-packer service where we will be delivering for sale, business to business, wholesale services of 250 liter to 1,000 liter small batch short runs of beverages, non-alcoholic beverages. We also can do RTDs. So if you're in the business of ready to drink coolers or beverages, wine spritzers, things like that, we can also support there. We have our HACCP plan in place, and we are CFIA, or Canadian Food Inspection Agency, licensed through the Safe Food for Canadians Act and for interprovincial trade. So this means that if you're working with us and we're supporting you with the development of, I don't know, say 10,000 liters over a year to get into market and have consumers testing them with their wallets, then that's something that if you have the necessary paperwork in place, then you could be selling them not only in Ontario, but in other provinces across the country as well. We have a cannabis edibles program. I won't belabor this. If anybody is in the business of cannabis edibles, please talk to me, because we have had our license since March of 2020, where we've been conducting research now with a number of different companies. And we focus on the understanding of the dispersion of the cannabinoids in food matrices, and then stability and degradation studies. So that's a whole other, can of, well, not worms, I guess, can of flowers, if you will. But we could always open up that offline and have a discussion about it. We provide analytical services. We've done that for years and have the trust of major associations in doing so. Product development examples, if anybody likes alcoholic cider that's light, we developed Reinhardt's. It launched in 270 LCBOs in 2017. I had mentioned the Sobri Distillec product. We worked with the development of mead products, and they're in the LCBO, but with food as well. So we have a big focus on this natural, health conscious, but also ethically harvested conscious food products that we can support you with. These are some examples of products that are in the market and that are selling quite well. And we have course-based solutions as well. So if there's something that you're looking at doing, a lot of the funding is not necessarily there right now, but it's something that might work in a classroom setting. We're more than happy to connect you with different professors if you folks hit it off and there is a similarity there and it can be a benefit to the classroom as well as to yourself. There's always that option too. Those are different types of solutions we can bring to the table. This is just an example of working with a bigger company, Riches, on the development of different frozen non-dairy product icings and coverings. So we can do that type of work as well. So before I go into the quick video, and I'll finish off my presentation with that, just a few of our partners, by their brand recognition that you can see on the stage here. And we would love to hear from you, and perhaps you could be on our wall of fame with, a number of other small and medium-sized enterprises that are in Niagara and abroad as well. So, Dean, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch over and play the video. I'll just need someone to confirm that you can hear this.
My name is Mike Riley.
I'm Jim Squires, and we are the co-founders of Full Socks.
Here. My name is Mike Riley.
I'm Jim Squires, and we are the co-founders of Full Socks. We were the first shrubs and switchels in Canada that were made on a scale bigger than a farmer's market.
We were kind of drawn to these old historical drinks that really had been forgotten. Switchels kind of like the natural sports drink, electrolytes, ginger, organic apple cider vinegar, organic cane sugar. So kind of like a staple drink for hundreds of years, started kind of like the late 1600s onwards, really to the advent of refrigeration when it kind of fell out of fashion.
We made, 30 different flavors at first, a few cocktail parties, and they seemed pretty popular.
Well, light bulb went off. It's like, why don't more people drink this? It's all natural. There's no artificial anything in it. There wasn't anybody making this stuff here. We kind of take a different approach to each shrub, and so some of them are a little bit thicker than others. Some of them, have a little bit of sediment in them. So kind of getting Niagara College's approach to how you solve these types of problems was really interesting.
Full Socks, they really impressed us because they had an amazing product line, and they had some fabulous ideas about creating some natural products and extending their product line.
Working with Niagara College, you get the students working on these. They learn something, we learn something. And that's one of the reasons why that drew us.
When a partner comes to us with an idea, we set up a scoping call with our research team consisting of students, professors, technical experts, and we also have the resources, space, state-of-the-art equipment, and government funding. So put all together, it makes for an amazing recipe to come up with fantastic food and beverage products.
Full Socks came to us for product development. They already were producing, so they just wanted to improve their product lines and also come out with more flavors. To start a product development, we really need to understand the chemistry of every single ingredient that is in that beverage for interactions, also for food safety, and also the stability when they go through processing. The other thing is the taste and the mouthfeel that the client is looking for. We are very fortunate here because we have experts in food safety, regulatory, food science, food chemistry, but also we have experts in flavor and culinary skills. And we have also some pilot plants here that can help us scale up products at a higher level so we can see how the product is going to behave when they go to a manufacturer level or a larger scale.
It was really interesting to see this flavor or that flavor and what they did to it and how it ended up in what we just tasted. And that was a really interesting collaborative approach. And they instantly got a sense of what we were looking for.
The amount of work we got, with the government grant as well, it really didn't cost us an awful lot of money. It would probably been out of our reach without that grant.
It's amazing for the students. They get hands-on real-world experience working on real products. And it's like a resume in a bottle or a can when they go out into the job market.
It was my dream to work at research, to take what we learn in the classroom and transfer that into a real world setting where you could work with a team, scientists, other research associates, industry experts. And these 4 labs are the reason why I'm here. You're in the lab, you're in the kitchen, then all of a sudden one day it has packaging and it's on the shelf. It seems surreal that you had a part in that.
The whole process with Niagara College was fantastic. Like, they were really good to work with. They explained every step of the way.
We get to come here, we get to try new drinks, we get to work with experts in their field and try things that no one's ever done before.
And the quality of what we got at the other end was fantastic.
So there you have it, folks. Thank you very much for your time. Apologies for any IT technical difficulties there. And I'm more than happy to chat with anybody about your ideas, your endeavors, and please don't be a stranger.
Lyndon, thank you so much for that presentation. We really appreciate it. You really have a hidden gem there, and I know you touch a lot of businesses. You help a lot of businesses. You're that connection between workforce development and economic development, and incubating new small businesses. But we're so grateful that you joined us so that our audience could hear more about you. And we will, in the chat, we've shared some of your contact information. So you can expect that people will reach out to you to say hello and explore your services. We really encourage everybody that was here to, if you saw something about the Food and Wine Institute that you had questions about, please do reach out to Lyndon or his colleagues there at the Food and Wine Institute. They'll tell you how they can help, and I found them to be an incredible resource. Lyndon, thanks again for your time, and we really appreciate you joining us, and appreciate all you do in the community.
My pleasure. Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to watching and participating in the rest of the show.
Great. So joining me in a minute will be Craig Calcott from Niagara Public Health. We'll just give it a second to welcome him to the stage. There we are. Hi, Craig.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Craig, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. We really thought it was important to have Niagara Region Public Health join us for this event. Sometimes people are a little bit nervous about, what does public health do? How do they impact my business? And in my experience, the public health can really be a big asset and really assist new businesses in getting started. And in my experience, your organization has guided people through those steps to starting, and how to be compliant and how to follow the rules, and that you really look to maintain a proactive, ongoing relationship. And I really want to welcome you to the stage and turn it over to you so that you can talk a little bit about everything public health does. And of course, if there's any questions from the audience, we'll relay them from the chat over to you as well. So Craig, I understand you have a slide deck you want to share, so go ahead and I'll pass it over to you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And I'm going to have a little short PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to try and hopefully get it set up here. So I'm going to do that right now. If I can just share my screen. Give me a moment here with the technical difficulties. And hopefully that works. Can everyone see the slide? I don't know, Rob, can you tell me if you can see that? Okay, I'm gonna assume that it's working unless I hear otherwise. So good morning, everybody. As Rob said, my name is Craig Calcott. I'm a public health inspector for Niagara Public Health. I'm the team lead for our food safety program, hence why I wanted to speak today about starting up a new food venture and working with public health while you're doing that. So just kind of quickly, want to just kind of go over the role of public health and, how we interact with, small or food businesses in general. So a lot of people tend to focus on the, the inspection side of things, the enforcement side of things. And certainly that is, a role that we do perform. We conduct routine food premise inspections to make sure the food is safe to eat, and we do enforce the food premise regulations. But we also educate, food handlers and food business owners on safe food handling practices. And, we try to assist operators and small business owners, to kind of get their businesses started and develop good food safety policies. So again, just to kind of reiterate, who I am and who you'll probably be dealing with the most is a public health inspector. So who we are, we are trained professionals. We are certified public health inspectors. And again, each business or restaurant will be assigned like one inspector, generally based upon the area they are. So that will be your main point of contact. And you'll have, over the couple of years generally, how long they'll be assigned to you. You'll develop a relationship with them. So want to kind of remind everyone that, we are available to offer consultation and assistance. And, it's not just, again, inspections we do. We help teach the food handler course. We investigate complaints, but again, we're there to help answer any questions you have, consult about new ideas, let you know what the potential obstacles are and how you can achieve your goals. So I don't want to get too lost in the weeds or the legislation, but I do recommend anyone starting out to familiarize themselves with the food premises regulations. Ontario regulation 493/17 is the food premise regulations. So I know it's not the most interesting read, but if you have time or if you ever have any questions, I always recommend people look up the actual regulation to see what the standards are. Because again, public health inspectors, that's ultimately what we, at the end of the day, we enforce. And that's really everything that we require is spelled out in that regulation. So really any questions, that's where we go. And that's where I would recommend people go to get a definitive answer on things like construction, food handling, a number of washrooms, employee hygiene. And an inspection frequency, again, we're out there doing inspections, usually unannounced, and the type of inspections, based upon the type of food someone's preparing. We could be in there 3 times a year, twice a year, or once a year, depending on your risk rating. And a good thing to know that when people kind of get started and they're wondering about a business is disclosure. So we are open, again, with all our inspections and results. We do kind of post them online on our website. We have a health inspection, Niagara Inspects website. So we'll have each, you can go on and you can look up a business, or if you have your business up there, your inspections will be available online, which is a good thing. And, potentially, depending on the operator, could be a bad thing, but it helps, I think, reinforce that behavior. So the public can go on and see, does this place have a good history? Or perhaps, do they have a lot of infractions? So we don't like to, penalize people unnecessarily. So it is a time limited disclosure. Results are displayed for 1 year, so that if, say, a business does, improve upon their history, learns from their mistakes, that record doesn't stay with them forever. And we also do post, closures and convictions as well. But I don't want to get too caught up on the that side of things. An important thing to know too, if you're thinking about starting a business, is the food handler certification or certificate. So you do have to have a certified food handler on site whenever food is being prepared or served. It is the law. But again, it's something that's good for your business generally too, because it does set some minimum standards for proper food handling, cooking. And ultimately, if you have that food handler certification, it helps ensure that your business is protected and you're less likely to have foodborne illness cases or complaints associated with improperly cooked food. So again, that's a service that public health offers. We do teach the course. Previously, we taught it in person, due to COVID. There are online options out there that you can do on your own. And we're actually in the process right now of developing our own virtual online course. So that's coming soon as well. Quick note too about home-based food premises. Again, a lot of people starting out, they want to start small. They may not have the resources to rent, a commercial building or a commercial kitchen. So just to let you know, home-based food businesses are permitted. They still have to comply with certain standards in the regulations, but the actual province has recently, I guess you could say, loosened restrictions for home-based businesses, particularly if they're only preparing low-risk foods. So think, bakeries, if you're baking cookies, cakes, things that don't need to be generally refrigerated, that you don't have to worry about spoiling, so your meats, potentially your dairy products. Then really you don't need to have like a separate kitchen per se in your house. You can use your own kitchen. Just have to make sure that it's clean and sanitary. Pets, could be a concern. But again, if you have any questions, we do recommend you reach out to public health and speak with a public health inspector about, can I do this in my home? Is it possible? Again, costs, of a foodborne illness can be quite high. So it's something that you want to avoid for your own business success, right? I mean,
hey, Craig, it's Craig. Sorry for interrupting. Dean here. I just popped on.
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure if you're moving your slides or not, but it doesn't appear on our end.
Oh, it doesn't?
No. So just a heads up.
Can you see any of my slides?
I can see your slide deck. We're just on that. We were stuck on that home slide, the first one, for a portion of the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's having the technical difficulties. Well, I know the time is limited, and really the slides just tend to be bullet points. So maybe I can share the presentation afterwards.
Sure.
And again, I'll just kind of read off it, and feel free to jump in with any questions. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And something to highlight too, I guess, with the starting a new business and that home-based business as well. There is no cost, for a public health inspector to come out, and give you like an on-site consultation. We're more than happy to deal with people in the pre-planning development stage. I mean, if you have blueprints or drawings, by all means, send them to us. We can review them and let you know if you need to make any changes. Because for us, it's a lot easier for us, again, if we work with people in the early stages to avoid any potential, pitfalls or problems that may develop later. The last thing we like is, come into a new restaurant or business that's just opened. The owner is excited, to have the place all up and running, and we come in and we say, oh, well, maybe you didn't have the correct number of hand wash sinks, right? Or, you need to have, a barrier in this section, right? Something that could have been easily addressed before opening, but unfortunately, maybe they didn't reach out to us, or they thought, public health is going to be punitive, and, I'm kind of scared to have them come out. So please don't take that mindset. We do like to work with people proactively. We want you to be able to open a business. So by all means, reach out to us, and we're more than happy to offer a consultation and, pre-opening, inspections, if you will. So the other thing I want to touch upon too is just, their public health is there. We are responsible for inspecting food premises, but if you want to get into, like say, other avenues, if you want to start making a product and selling it in a store, then you may have to deal with other agencies as well, like government agencies. So there's also the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They're the CFIA. They deal with all the labeling requirements for wholesaling and, and retailing and shipping your products, perhaps even across the borders or out of the country if you ever get to that stage. And then there's also the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. They're a MAFRA, and I think someone is speaking today from a MAFRA. I'm not sure if they've already had their presentation or not, but again, they deal with more so the the produce, the growing of food, sometimes processing of meat as well. So it's difficult sometimes to navigate the varying levels of government, But by all means, you can reach out to us, and we can always refer you to those agencies and help you navigate the different layers, if you will. So lastly, I just want to provide contact information for public health and myself. Again, we're available many different avenues. We're available by phone. If you could see my slide, my phone number would be displayed. 905-688-3762 is our general number. But again, we have a lot of information up on our website, niagararegion.ca. We have a whole web page dedicated to food safety. So that includes, special events, farmers markets. It has all our requirements for setting up. You can register your business and request an online consultation through our website. And again, you can go on and view health inspections for other businesses. So I really do like to promote our Niagara Region website. We do spend a lot of time developing the website and putting up as many resources as possible. And again, you can reach out to us through email, inspect@niagararegion.ca. And lastly, our offices are closed currently due to COVID. But again, hopefully they will be reopening soon. And we do have 4 offices throughout the region. We have our main office in Thorold. We have satellite offices in Niagara Falls, Welland, and Fort Erie. So again, when things reopen a little further, feel free to stop by in person as well. So that's the end of my slides, but I guess you guys couldn't see it. Does anyone have any questions for myself?
Hey, Craig, thanks a lot. Excellent presentation. And, I deal with clients all the time who are pleasantly surprised, I think, when they reach out to public health and they realize how helpful they can be in helping them make sure their premise is up to spec and so forth. There are a couple questions, and we're really on time, so I think we'll squeeze in a few. One thing on behalf of myself, I know at one point public health was doing this. I'm not sure if the pandemic has interrupted that or not. But is public health still doing kind of like preliminary inspections of a food premise? Let's say someone is considering opening up a food premise at a certain location. Does public health come out and do like those pre-consultations still?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry that I mentioned that during the presentation. I called it like a consultation, but yeah, we're more than willing to again do that on the phone or via email. But again, we'll come out on site if you do have a location you're thinking about. Sometimes if someone is buying a pre-existing kitchen, we'll come out, we'll say, oh, okay, here's what you need to change. Or even sometimes if it's just an empty building, we've come out as well and said, well, obviously there's a lot of you can do with the space, but at minimum, you'd have to say change the flooring in here, fix those walls, put in some plumbing here. So again, more than happy to do that. And generally we're pretty responsive to that and flexible, especially again as the pandemic wanes and we have a bit more capacity with our inspectors. We do like doing that. There's no fee, for us to come out and do that either.
That is a great service that I don't think everyone is aware of. So for those in attendance today, now you know. A couple more questions I think we can squeeze in, Craig. Very briefly, can you touch on home-based food premises? I know there's been some regulatory changes over the past year or two. In brief, is that a possibility for people?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I'd say the biggest challenge for people tends to be, depending on the type of foods they make, the number of sinks and like the plumbing in the kitchen. Because if they do want to be we call them like a high risk or moderate risk food premise and prepare like say full meals, that would be like cooking raw meat, extensive handling of foods. Then the regulations do require to have a like a dedicated hand wash sink and like a 2-compartment sink, which most home kitchens people don't have. That separate dedicated hand wash sink that's only used for hand washing. So again, the ministry has loosened restrictions now for people who are operating low risk businesses. I know I mentioned baking, but that could also be doing like preserves, jams, things of that nature, pickling products, things that don't need, like I said, need to be refrigerated and shelf stable. They don't need to have a separate hand wash sink anymore. They don't have to worry about the dishwashing requirements either. I mean, you still have to obviously wash your hands, and you still have to wash your dishes appropriately, but you don't need to have a a commercial dishwasher, for example, right? You don't need to have these separate dedicated sinks that's, it's only used for dishwashing, and that one's only used for hand washing. You can use your kitchen sink, right? And again, low risk food premises don't have to have a certified food handler. So again, it kind of reduces the burden a bit on them. But certainly, I mean, we still recommend, again, having the food handler certificate for your own benefit, and of course, washing your hands and doing dishes. But the regulatory burden is less.
Good to know. Good to know. Tim, Craig, I'm going to squeeze in one last question from Tim here, and then we can wrap up. Tim asks, there is a database of inspection results. Is there a database of authorized businesses available, including home-based businesses? One thing we always want to ensure is that only inspected businesses are available through our delivery platform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, of course, anyone providing food to the public or offering, food to sale for the public must have an inspected kitchen. So, again, if you ever have a question whether a premise is inspected, it is available on our website, our public health or PHI inspects. So, if you even Google Niagara Region health inspections, you can go on. It's not just even food. We do disclose other inspections like, personal service settings, that's salons, recreational water, food as well. So if you type into the health inspections of food premise, Tim Hortons or something like that, obviously, you'll see a list of Tim Hortons in the area that will pop up. They'll have an address associated with them and the last date that they were inspected. Actually, probably if they were inspected 3 times that year, you'll see those 3 inspections, right? So if you are looking for a business and you can't find it on our disclosure website, generally that means it's not being inspected at the moment. Now, I do caution people. Sometimes people will call and say, oh, this place isn't inspected. Spelling, sometimes we may have it inputted into our system under a different name or spelling. Occasionally, it may be temporarily closed. Maybe it's a seasonal premise or something like that. So there are a few exceptions where it may not show up on the database, but I'd say for 95% of the businesses, if it's in our database, our disclosure website, it is an inspected kitchen.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. There's a couple more questions here. I don't think we have the time to answer them. Now, for those folks, is it okay if they reach out to you directly with their questions?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Craig.
I'll provide my work email as well. So it's craig.calcott@niagararegion.ca, or you can use our inspect at niagararegion.ca. And I'll share a copy of that PowerPoint presentation as well. Sorry, technical difficulties.
That's all good, Craig. Thank you very much. Victoria has shared your email address and the website in the event chat, so people will know where to find you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Goodbye,
awesome.
everybody.
Thanks a lot, Craig. Okay, moving along with our speaker series, this is sort of like the crash course of all the things that we think you should know as you start or expand your food business. One of the biggest questions we get for companies that are scaling and especially targeting the retail stores is regarding packaging. So I would like to welcome to the stage Lisa Covey from Co-Motion Packaging. She is the founder of her packaging solutions company. And Lisa, if you're with us, please help yourself to the main stage. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you very much for joining us today. As I mentioned, we get questions from scaling companies about, we've been doing well and we're growing, and I want to start to target retail stores and hope for them to carry my products. And inevitably, that brings us to this conversation around packaging. And Absolutely. That is why we have you here. I know you're the go-to person on this. So Lisa, if you have a slide deck, please feel free to share your screen. Excellent. And I'm going to hop off. The main stage is yours.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today to discuss packaging with you. As Dean said, packaging is a hot topic when it comes to starting a food business, even when you're talking about stock packaging, but going on from there. So I'm just making note of the time in my head here, just to make sure I don't go too far over. So packaging a food product, I want to introduce you some concepts today. My name is Lisa Cove. I am the founder of Co-Motion Packaging Solutions. I have over 15 years experience in the food industry. I've purchased, equipment for large-scale packaging manufacturers. So I started in technical purchasing, where I bought maintenance, repair, operation, as well as capital expenditures for food manufacturing. And then I moved into the raw material and packaging side of things. So I have over experience with budgets of over 20+ million spend on packaging each year for Ferrero Canada, as well as other large co-manufacturers of frozen entrees, where I was the purchasing and warehouse manager. I'm also a professor of food safety and traceability in the agriculture business management program, and consulting now with food brands to help them scale their packaging. So I've transitioned my career through different aspects, but I do have the experience to help you with your scaling as you grow your food-based business. So I want to start by introducing Ontario, because a lot of people don't understand or realize that Ontario is such a hub for food production in Canada. So we are a leader in North America for food production. We have over 4,500 different food manufacturing facilities and operations at hand right now. And that's because we have a key connection to raw materials, whether we are getting them from here, but also we have really good access to trade routes. So we're able to get in raw materials from the US, from the St. Lawrence, coming over from Europe or from Asia. So there's a lot of, Ontario is a hub for that. We also have a very skilled workforce. So we're able to draw on that skilled workforce, and it helps us to build more robust food production facilities. Again, great transportation routes. So if you produce in Ontario, you have the opportunity to ship through all our different transportation routes through Toronto and to the rest of the world, or throughout Canada. So our transportation routes are great in Ontario. We have our our MAFRA, our Food and Business Ontario, our different small business resource or enterprise centers in Ontario. As why you're on the call today, there are so many resources in Ontario for building up small business, especially in the food production. So that's why Ontario is a leader, and why we're happy to do business in Ontario today. So I want to talk about navigating your packaging journey with some of the tips that I have for you to understand where you're at with your packaging and where you need to go. So the first point I would like to make to all of my entrepreneurs is, we've talked about, you're doing your marketing, you're doing your market research, you have an idea, you're testing your idea. But as you're building out your business plan, I want you to consider packaging at every stage. And this is what I tell all entrepreneurs, whether you're scaling up and you're doing a new business plan, or you're editing your business plan, or you're even just starting up, you should be considering your packaging and how you're going to distribute your product to customers right at the beginning. Because what I do find is that entrepreneurs tend to find that packaging is an extra cost. It's obviously a huge cost to your bottom line and to your total product cost. But it's often, if it's left on the back burner, you may have a different expectation than what's actually possible. So that's why we ask you to review how you plan on shipping. Some people look at brands like HelloFresh and they say, well, this company can ship frozen entrees to families for $10 a piece. But you at your scale level may not be able to do that. So packaging is a significant investment. Once you get into commercial printed packaging, it's much more higher cost. And of course, it can't be changed as easily once it's printed. So it's really important that you understand how much it's going to cost you to make something, how much it's going to cost you to ship something. So every single stage in your business plan, consider packaging along the way. You want to determine if you're a small batch micro business or if you're at the next level. So small batch micro business, you're making about under $25,000 a year with your product. There's a lot of manual production. You're manually packing, you're manually shipping. A lot smaller investment. You're selling at local shops. You're selling at farmers markets. So your packaging is pretty much plain with a label that maybe you print at home, or you buy small order quantities from, say, Vistaprint or something like that. And you apply the label to it and you go from there. Your cost per unit is much higher on this type of packaging, but your minimum order quantity to start out with is much, much lower, which is great. It's changeable. So when you're going ahead, you're testing the market, you're able to make those changes to your packaging. So that would be small batch or micro business. So some of the small scale packaging suppliers you may be looking for, pouches, flexible packaging is very common with starting up food businesses because it's lightweight, it's easy, it's easier to get your hands on. You can easily stick stickers on it, labels on it, and go, and you have a nice professional looking package right from the beginning. So you could obtain those from Uline, Pouchmaker, Rootree, or some local options. Rootree is located in Burlington. So they're right down the road, and they have sustainable options if that's something that matters to you. Corrugated boxes, most people head off to Uline because they do have every single size you could even imagine, and they run the racket kind of on the plain corrugated box. Consolidated bottle out of Toronto, maybe somewhere you might want to look for jars or bottles if you're looking for like a sauce bottle or any sort of liquid bottle. You can put it in there. There's an example on the slide. So Consolidated Bottle prides themselves on selling you one package or a pallet of packages. So they don't have minimum order quantities. You can go into their cash and carry, pick out one, or you can pick out 10, or you can buy 1,000. So that's the great thing about them when you're starting out, because getting started with minimum order quantities can be quite difficult. And then I noted their innovative displays. If you're looking for a digital printer for box board, that might be an option for you. Learning how to differentiate and figure out when you're getting into the commercial packaging. So commercial packaging is when you're ready to scale. So it's the packaging where the label is printed directly on your package. It's typically required for you to sell to a grocery store. So grocery stores would be expected, they'd be expecting this kind of printed packaging. So it's a lot higher startup cost for you. So you need to make sure you have proof of concept when you're done the small scale. You know that people are buying your product, you're able to show sales, and you're ready to invest in that higher minimum order quantity, which is in turn more money. So if you're, if you're responsible for this, you might be buying your packaging, or you may have a co-manufacturer who's responsible for ordering the packaging for you. But it's just whether you're at that point where you're ready to scale to commercial packaging. And in my consulting business, that's where I can help you determine whether or not you're ready to, advance to that. And then also, are you ready to invest in the extra costs of packaging lines and things like that. So some local suppliers for you that you might be interested in knowing about would be Pouchmakers and Rootree, again, for printed packaging. Flexible films, maybe Sunoco or Westrock. Box board, which is, again, just your regular like cereal box, your craft boxes, might be Ellis Packaging, Ingersoll Paperbox, or Westrock. And corrugated, when you get into the larger scale, you're looking at Cascades or Atlantic Packaging, perhaps Berlin Packaging. So those are some names of some local suppliers. A lot of times people are just looking for who they should ask for these sorts of things. So that's why I mention it. So I always say, do your market research first. You want to understand who is your target market, who are your target customers, and figure out who your competitors are as well. And the reason why you want to know what your competitors are doing is so that they've already done a lot of the research. So it's good to know why they're packaging something in certain packaging, how they're distributing to their customer. So we're doing market research not only on our customers, but also on our competitors and what they're doing. So we want to determine kind of what's trending, what our competitors are using and why. Perhaps we're doing a product that is predominantly maybe a health conscious, where we might be looking for more of a sustainable package because our packaging should line with our values. So for example, if we're serving a gluten-free vegan product, we might expect to have that in more of a sustainable package than if we're just doing the regular like frozen pizza. So doing our market research and understanding what our customers expect to see in our packaging is very important as well. So you can understand what kind of investment you're going to be looking for. You can always move to sustainable packaging, such as more recyclable or biodegradable in the future. But sometimes it's easier just to start out on the right foot with sustainable packaging. And it really depends on what you need to invest in for your brand. So everybody's interested in the current affairs of packaging because packaging is quite expensive right now. And why is that? So we have shipping costs from overseas. So a lot of times I'll have clients who obtain a quote from overseas where the package is very, very inexpensive per package, and they think that's great, and it typically is, except for when they get to the point of shipping costs. Shipping costs are astronomical right now from overseas for the most part, so that can drive your cost of product up. I always try to encourage people to roll that cost of shipping into the cost per unit, so you really understand what your cost per unit is. Shipping is not over and above, it is part of the packaging price. So you want to roll that into a landed cost for your packaging. So even though you see 3 cents per package and you see 97 cents from Ontario, of the same exact product, perhaps when you do your landed cost of your overseas, you might be finding the same thing. So shipping costs and shipping queues. So we have a lot of delay. Everything is delayed right now when it comes, we're trying to rev back up, but we see, 6 months lead time where normally there would only be a couple of months. So there's definitely these long queues we need to work through. There's different supply chain disruptions, which will increase your lead time. We have labor shortages, recycled material shortages that are reducing or increasing the cost of corrugated. For example, we know that during 2020, 2021, a lot of Amazon purchases really increased, which gobbled up all of our corrugated boxes. And, when we go to purchase some boxes for our food products, there's either limited amount of availability or, really long lead times for that. So when we have these recycled material shortages, people just generally aren't recycling their Amazon boxes enough, for example, then we have a cost increase for the raw material at the corrugator. So that's something to consider. E-commerce is driving that. And then a production time available. So what's actually available for you to get your product produced. So anyway, I rushed kind of through that just to make sure I got through it all. But the point is that you should be considering your packaging from the start of your business plan. You should consider how you are going to distribute to your customer and what that looks like. And don't just consider necessarily your first the primary packaging. Everybody considers, what the customer takes home with them. But remember that if you're shipping cases to a retail store or you're shipping 6-packs, you have to have that primary packing inside of another secondary or tertiary packaging. So there's more to the cost. And I just invite you to really consider that along the way and to consider all your costs along the way so that you don't have shell shock. When you've already developed your recipe, you've already done so much work, and then you realize that the investment for packaging may be too high for you, and you don't want to proceed with the project, or it wasn't what you're considering, and your margins are much, much lower. It's good to look at that right from the beginning. So in all that, that is my presentation. Hopefully I didn't speed through it too quickly. But hi, Rob.
Hi, Lisa. No, you did great. And a lot of really helpful information there. It's something for a new food entrepreneur. I agree with Dean's opening comments. This is an area where we get so many questions, and some of the resources and vendors you shared, a couple of them were new to me as well. So thank you for increasing my knowledge in addition to everybody that was here. And I really love the highlights about how the economy is going right now and some of the current challenges too. Really appreciate everything about this, and the fact that you're a teacher as well really shines through in this. You're very succinct and concise, but packed with information. So thank you so much. I'm not sure if there's any questions at this moment, but your contact information's on the screen and is going to be in the chat as well if it's not there already. And really encourage people to reach out to you, Lisa, if they have any further questions. Really appreciate your time, Lisa. This
Perfect.
has been
Thank you for having me, Rob. I appreciate it. I was really happy to be here.
Absolutely. No, it's such a great resource, and we can't say enough good things about you volunteering your time like this for us and sharing this great information. So really encourage everybody in the audience, reach out to Lisa if you have any questions about packaging. As you can see, a great resource, and really look forward to seeing you again and talking with you more, Lisa. In a moment, we're going to welcome our next speaker to the stage, Aaron Panic. just give her a second to come on stage. Erin is welcome, Erin. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. This has been, I'm really enjoying the day today. And I think there's really good synergy between from Dana to Lyndon to Craig to Lisa and now Omafra. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Just by way of introduction to the audience, this is Erin Panic, who has joined us on the stage. She's business development consultant with Omafra. And Omafra is a short form for Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs. Erin's going, I hope I got that right.
You did, yes.
I always trip over that a little bit. But Erin's going to give a glimpse of some of the ways that Omafra can help your business in a variety of ways. And Erin, really grateful, just like the other panelists, really grateful that you've joined us today and that you'll be able to give a small glimpse into what you do in supporting the thousands of Ontario food businesses. Erin, we'll turn it over to you and look forward to hearing your presentation. We'll let you know if we can't see your slide. I think you have a slide deck you're going to share.
I do.
Yeah, we'll let you know if it doesn't come up okay, but feel free to take over that way.
Okay, thank you. I'll just bring this up here. Thank you so much for having me today. Can you see that? Hello? Uh-oh. Oh, sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, no, that's on me. It did go live. We could see it. So feel free to, what you did was correct.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Uh-oh. I can hear you.
No.
Just bear with us a second. The joys of technology. Can you hear me okay now?
Hello?
I can hear you fine, Erin.
Okay, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So I apologize for that. I'll see if this makes a difference. I'm gonna share my slides again. I'm not sure what happened.
It's the joys of this hybrid reality.
So hopefully you can see those slides. Okay, good. So I'm going to proceed and hope. I can't see anything on my screen and I can't hear you. So I'm just going to proceed and hope things go smoothly. As Rob mentioned, I'm Erin Panic with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. I'm with our business development branch. So I'm really excited to be invited today to speak to everybody on how to start and grow a successful food business and some of the resources that we have to offer to support you in doing that. So first off, I want to share an overview of our role and the resources that we have and they fall into sort of three categories within our branch, helping you to start, operate, and grow your business. So we provide information and services on how to operate and grow a food manufacturing business or food and beverage processing business, really emphasizing and focusing on small and medium enterprises. We focus on improving knowledge and increasing sales, trade, productivity, cost efficiencies, investment, and job creation and retention. We want to generate awareness and build demand for Ontario food and beverage manufacturers, both domestically and abroad through export. We want to support you in developing your market entry plans, helping you to position your products to national and international retailers, connect you to opportunities like duty-free, food service, hospitality, through the broader public sector, and through large corporate business opportunities. And again, we focus on value-added production and growing the domestic market and supporting local food. just going to pop on here. Okay, I'm trying to make my slides move. There we go. Okay. Moving to the next slide. So my role as a business development consultant is working with food and beverage processors to encourage and facilitate growth, development, and investment. We work with companies of all different sizes, right from the small baker who sells donuts, maybe one or two employees, to large multinational facilities. So needs really vary across that really broad spectrum. Our team primarily works in the Southwestern Ontario area, but we do have people in Eastern Ontario as well. So you can always reach out, and if it's not me, I'm happy to connect you to one of my counterparts. We work in, we can categorize our services into 3 areas, providing resources, connections, and support and information. We want to bring you the resources that you need to start a new processing business, to operate and grow and invest and export. So our resources are really targeted. So we do really focus everything we have to offer on food and beverage processing. We create connections between industry stakeholders to foster the creation and development of business opportunities. And we provide support and information to food and beverage processors to help you implement your plans and bring your projects to life and really to thrive. We have a number of resources in the form of guides. So here are 3 that we have to offer. We have our guide to food and beverage manufacturing. You can see there it's a little out of date, 2015, but it does have a lot of really great information to help you start your business. It includes information on things like financial planning, product costing models, guidelines for food safety, government regulations, marketing advice, and it includes a number of links to programs and services and industry contacts. We've also developed a guide to starting a craft brewery in Ontario and have a guide to starting a winery in Ontario as well. Some of the other resources that we have to share with you. So because entrepreneurs have really specific needs, we've developed a series of fact sheets to help. So you can see an example of some of those there. Is entrepreneurship right to you? Think you're ready to run a food and beverage business? So it's sort of a self-assessment and key considerations. We have key components of a business plan. So as you start your business, start thinking about your business plan. The micro business stage, co-packing your product, and choosing a broker or distributor, which isn't up there, but we do have information on that as well. We have a number and variety of other resources too that we can provide. We can share an industry overview of the foods processing sector in Ontario. We have guides on starting a food selling business, food safety, inspection, traceability, things to consider in terms of employment and training, all those kind of good things. We also have resources. We organize regularly webinars on topics related to business development or opportunities in foreign markets for companies that may be export ready. We also have a customized seminar called Profit. So this is a really great opportunity for new exporters. It's basic knowledge on getting started in export. Sorry, I'm just going to pop on here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Our seminar is a hands-on orientation that cover the basic requirements for food and beverage exporters. Topics discussed during the seminars include export financing, product labeling, U.S. tax laws, food brokerage, distribution, food and drug regulations, customs brokerage. During normal times, pre-pandemic times, you'd actually spend a day here in Ontario for the workshop, and then you'd travel to a border state to really see, firsthand U.S. retailers and have presentations by some of those experts in market. So in terms of who should attend and participate in Profit, be companies that are looking to start exporting, companies that recently started exporting, and companies with new export staff. So we're hoping to host a seminar coming up probably late summer, early fall this year. In terms of connections, part of our role is really creating those connections between industry stakeholders. It could be local food companies with large retail stores like Walmart, Sobeys, Metro. We really connect buyers to local suppliers because we want them to build their local product portfolios. We want Ontario food companies to expand their sales. So we work with the retailers and Ontario food suppliers to make that connection. We also do the same thing with international buyers. We have a trade and investment team that work with exclusively with international buyers to bring those opportunities to Ontario food companies as well. We often get inquiries from businesses looking for co-packers or co-manufacturing services. So, oftentimes food entrepreneurs, it's a significant investment to start your own processing facility. Another option is using a co-manufacturer to make the product and package it for you. So we can help identify potential co-packers and provide introductions based on your specific needs. And we also work with research centers and other service providers across the province to bring those to you. I am sorry. Hopefully, it's really strange providing a presentation when I can't hear. So apologies. Oh. And I'll continue here. So it's a little strange, but I'll keep going and hope everybody can hear. So in terms of connections, some of the events we organize or take part in each year include our vendor engagement program, working with companies like Metro and Walmart. So bringing the buyers directly to Ontario food companies. So like a matchmaker, we're matching Ontario suppliers with the needs of our domestic food retailers. We also work with Sobeys to bring the Sobeys Roadshow to fruition. And we also work with Restaurants Canada and Grocery Innovations Canada to collaborate to offer an exhibitor promotion program to Ontario food and beverage manufacturers. So it's a trade show booth under our Ontario Pavilion at Restaurants Canada and Grocery Innovations at a discounted rate. So bringing some extra value there. And internationally, we work with the Private Label Manufacturers Association to do the same thing. Some of the additional support that we can bring to you, we work with you to identify your specific needs. So working one-on-one to bring you the right support for the stage of your business. So that can fall into the categories that you see on the screen. We can provide direction around certifications that may be required in terms of food safety, product certifications, licensing and regulatory requirements that may be required. We have a team of our inspection team, like dairy, meat processing, or meat inspection, fish, and processing fruit and vegetables, etc. I guess you can liken us to sort of a generalist. So your family practitioner, we want to be your one-stop shop for anything food and beverage processing related, and can refer you to the specialists. And you have so many great ones in Niagara that can help you. So we help companies assess and develop your export readiness as well, as I've mentioned previously. We can also help to access government funding programs. So some of those programs, and I know it's always a hot topic. Some of the ones that we help to deliver are the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund, which is a provincial fund to help companies create new jobs and invest in new technologies, equipment, and build capacity. There's also a very recent announcement on the Strategic Agri-Food Processing Fund, which opens tomorrow, coincidentally. So really good timing. And it's going to have 3 different product categories for really building capacity and food sustainability in the province. So the guidelines are up. So if you want to visit that website, just Google Strategic Agri-Food Processing Fund, and any questions that arise, I'm happy to help. We've also had our CAP program in the past that provides grant or cost share funding for food safety and traceability system improvements, domestic and international market development projects, and technology and equipment to support innovation. Some of the partners that we work with, we collaborate with organizations, associations, and government at all levels, working with, sister ministries like Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, federal counterparts, FedDev Ontario, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, universities and colleges, research centers, accelerators, incubators, local business centers, public health, and sector associations like Food and Beverage Ontario, Excellence in Manufacturing Ontario, or Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, and then sector-specific associations as well. A great way to stay informed, I'm just going to take a peek here and make sure there's nothing in the chat. So, okay. An excellent way to stay informed, and if you're interested, we also offer a monthly newsletter. So our bulletin comes out once a month with really targeted information that's useful for the food and beverage industry. So you can subscribe to this newsletter online. Our April one is going to be coming out sort of imminently within the next probably few days to a week. It offers information on funding program announcements, if there's any consultations, training, regulatory updates, events. It's just a really great way to stay informed. You can unsubscribe at any time. So if you want to hop on and subscribe online, or you can reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to add you to that as well. We also deliver at the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Hopefully everybody's familiar with the Foodland Ontario program. Using the Foodland Ontario logo program on your products and marketing material is a really great way to help shoppers identify Ontario foods. So OMAFRA really wants consumers to anticipate and identify and choose Ontario food. So using the Foodland Ontario logo, there's some key information here. So almost 90% of Ontarians recognize the logo. It's the strongest way for consumers to purchase Ontario food is their ability to identify it. So looking for that logo right on the product packaging is a great way to do that. And it's free. So free print and merchandising resources. There's no charge for using the logo. You just have to follow the steps outlined on this slide and make sure you meet the criteria. And once approved, once you submit your logo, the submission, and you're approved, you'll be sent a copy of the Foodland Ontario logo and brand standards guides, and you're welcome to use that. And this is just a highlight of my coverage area. So we do work as a team in our Advisory Services West unit. You can see my area highlighted in green there. I'm also the wine sector lead for our team, so work really closely with the sector associations, Ontario Craft Wineries, Wine Growers Ontario, Grape Growers Ontario, but I have counterparts across the province. So if you're located in a different region, you can just reach out to me and I'll make sure you're connected to the right person on our team. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much. Again, I don't have any audio, so apologize for that. But if there's a question in the chat, I'll do my best to address those. Thank you.
Erin, just to make sure you can't, can you hear me?
I hear you now. I do.
Perfect.
Yay.
Awesome. Sometimes these things just resolve themselves.
Crazy. Yeah, that was a really weird. So apologies for that. That was a very bizarre experience. I don't know why that happened, but
Well, the
hopefully you saw.
presentation was great, so
Oh,
so
I'm
no
so
apology needed.
okay. Thanks, Rob.
Aaron, thank you so much for presenting on those excellent resources from OMAFRA, and I think that will be very helpful. And for the sake of time, we're going to segue now into the next component of the presentation, and I'm going to encourage people who want to learn more about what you and your team do, Aaron, or some of the programs you mentioned, to just contact you directly, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm happy to help, and I look forward to connecting to any of the participants.
Excellent. So again, if you are interested in learning more about how OMAFRA can help you with your journey as a food entrepreneur, we've provided Erin's contact info in the chat, and by all means, you can connect with her after the event. So Erin, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we'll speak again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Okay, so that wraps up the second component of the event. And I like to think of that speaker series as like a speed dating for service providers for food entrepreneurs. So that was quick and high level, and now hopefully you know some more resources and services that can aid you on your journey. And I'm excited now to move to our third and last component of our Table Talk event. And in doing so, I'd like to invite Volker Lotfering from Venture Niagara up to the stage to join me. Hello, Volker.
Hello, Dean. Thank you.
I hope you're doing well.
Yes, and I've learned a little bit about Dana, like you mentioned, that there's new regulations in the cheese making industry. So I might restart that.
I knew you would appreciate that. Volker is with Venture Niagara, and Venture Niagara has been a key partner in putting on our Table Talk event. Volker, I'll leave it to you to talk about how you and Venture Niagara support entrepreneurs in the Niagara entrepreneurship ecosystem, as well as provide a warm welcome to the businesses on our local stories panel. Last reminder, again, we have 4 $100 gift cards that we are giving away at the very end of the event from each one of the businesses that are part of the local stories panel. And people have been engaging in the chat. That's great to see. Keep it up, and we'll announce who those winners are at the end. Volker, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, my name is Volker Lutfering. I'm the business loans officer here at Venture Niagara. Venture Niagara is a nonprofit organization located in Thorold, and we are part of the Southern Ontario network of the Community Futures Development Corporations, for short CFDCs. There's about, I think, a little over 30 in southwestern Ontario and almost 270 across the nation. Since 1985, Venture Niagara is contributing to the growth of the Niagara economy by providing a broad range of business financing and assistance to entrepreneurs, plus carrying out purposeful community economic development initiatives like the Niagara Tourism Network and Niagara Cycling Tourism Center. Venture Niagara and the St. Catharines Enterprise Center and Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise Center have collaborated for a long time and have jointly assisted countless Niagara-based small business startups. We're happy to be part of this great event, and I want to thank Dean and Victoria, Rob, and Kristen for organizing and hosting the Table Talk. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Tiffany Mayer, award-winning Niagara. Hello, Tiffany.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, I've jotted down a little bit about you, and I know that you mentioned, and I've read all the articles about our entrepreneurs who will be on the stage today, that you've written about them. But Tiffany is an award-winning Niagara-based food writer and author of the popular newspaper column Eating Niagara in the St. Catharines Standard, as well as all the Metroland Media Group issues here in Niagara. She's the author of Niagara Food, a flavorful history of the peninsula's bounty. She writes, blogs, podcasts, broadcasts about and lives the Niagara food scene. So welcome, and thank you for moderating our local stories panel.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And joining Tiffany on our virtual stage to share their entrepreneurial journey in the food industries are Nelson Flores. He is co-owner of Fiesta Empanada in St. Catharines, and he will soon open another business called La Familia Grill. Welcome, Nelson.
Oh, thank you, Volker. Thank you, Tiffany. And it's honored to be here sharing stories and information within the Niagara region, sharing our own experiences on how our business came about that hopefully helps individuals who are looking to start their own or in the process of starting their own. We'll share information as much as we can, and we're just happy to be here and the great opportunity for to meet a lot of people.
Perfect, Nelson. Thank you so much. And the empanadas are very delicious. And
Thank
I
you.
know that the La Familia Grill will even give us more Philippine cuisine.
Pretty
And
much, yeah. Thank you.
yeah, next I want to invite Charlie Wharton of The Grove in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm nervous for sure, but I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank
then
you.
I would like to introduce Ray and Seiko. I don't know if I said that right. Maybe
you're
you
pretty
can.
good.
Yes, good. And he's a co-owner of Incoho Restaurant in St. Catharines, as well as a new venture, Alitura Fine Foods and Market in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Yes, yeah. No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. And last but not least, Jessica Breslov. I would love to introduce her, but she unfortunately had something come up and cannot join us today. But that's what happens when you're an entrepreneur. So welcome, everyone, and the stage is yours.
Great. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Tiffany.
I guess first off, hey, Nelson. I guess first off, tell us a little bit more about yourselves and what you do, and what inspired you to open a food-related business. We'll start with you, Nelson.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So, about myself, I grew up back in the Philippines in the restaurant business. So, all throughout my life, where I've been into restaurant business, and inspired me to see my parents created the business from the ground out as well. But as I grow up, I become into more technology. So I am a professional engineer by trade. But here in Niagara, when we're living here for the last 18 years, we see an opportunity to open up something that lacking in terms of our own flavor of the empanada that we like to buy. So we started a small business just to be able to see whether we can get that gap and introduce what my Jenny, which the partner that I have in Fiesta Empanada, to be able to see whether there's a good opportunity to create that product. And we did as I started as a farmers market vendor, and we saw a growth on that farmers market vendor and saw an opportunity to expand it and then become a storefront. And now we're supplying different types of food with our own influence from our Filipino heritage, and that came about. It's just our passion and my passion of food to be able to provide something that we know that we can share to everyone, a flavor of something that missing in our stay in Niagara. So it gives us a lot of opportunity to share that experiences to people.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Charlie?
Hello. Basically, about 7 years ago, I had this mission that I was going to open a British food truck. I'm originally from England, and my family, we got tired of the typical stereotype that British food was bland and boiled and not so great. And we felt that Niagara really had a good market for trying to turn the tables on that and show people what amazing things that come from UK cuisine. However, that's years ago now. It sort of evolved. We eventually became a restaurant, opening Mason at the Silversmith Brewery back in 2017. And then that also evolved into The Grove, which is my current business. It's a farm shop down in Niagara-on-the-Lake, actually just down the road from Alitura. And it's just I think my journey through the business has been one of just adapting, constantly changing with what our customer wants, what works for us in Niagara, what Niagara has to offer. And the Grove has sort of become this nice amalgamation of all the things that I intended to set out with that food truck and with the restaurant. And now I sort of get to do all of those things together under one roof, and on a farm that has been operating for about 60 years, growing some of the best produce in Niagara. So that's been my journey in a nutshell. It's been interesting and exciting, and obviously COVID has thrown us some cool pivots, but it's it's going well, and it's been a journey for sure.
Thank you. And Ray?
Okay. So I'm the owner of an Incoho restaurant in St. Catharines. I've been working in a lot of restaurants in the Niagara region as well as in the States. So what we're trying to do at Incoho is we're trying to bridge the gap from the kitchen to your table. We don't have any servers in the restaurants. We're all chefs there. We try to be as like to highlight what we want to do. And there's no one chef over there, so it's like a communal kitchen, which we share our ideas, our insights to what the tasting menu should be. Now that we're opening up, now that we open up Aratura, as well as like we're trying to bring a lot of local farmers together, and we try to highlight what they can offer, as well as like we try to work in their farms as well, so that we can get the hands-on experience that that we need. And it's super hard to grow like vegetables, just to let you know. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I can empathize with that. You should have seen my garden last year, so I get it. I know from having spoken to each of you before, and both Nelson and Charlie kind of touched on it in your introductions, but you all saw a void in the market, and when you decided to launch your business. Tell me a little bit about how essential or critical that piece was to deciding to launch, and the success of your business since then. And we can start with whoever.
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, it's very critical because in a growing food market in Niagara, you need some variety so people will be able to have a much better choice of food that they want to eat. Not only that, but in our food, we incorporate our part of our culture where we grew up from, the techniques that being used, the type of ingredients that are being used on the food, and of course the quality on how you make people satisfied or happy when they try your food. So because for us, business is just making people what do you call this, be satisfied or happy when they try your product, not just because you're selling your product, but the joy of you see people appreciating what you create in Niagara is very what do you call it, really nice feeling for our business. But once we see a gap on that void, we just push on it. We concentrated only on that product, and we tried to master that product for 2 years now, and we're seeing a lot of good feedback across within Niagara, and we're very fortunate enough to be able to do that in that COVID situation, and much more when we were in open up. So there's a lot of opportunities that open up through us by getting to that gap of lacking of the product, especially when we introduce our product. We're from Southeast Asia, which is very far from Latin America, where the empanada are very popular. So that part alone, introducing that side of that version, help us to be able to let people know that there's another version of that food that's not may well known, but the quality and the consistency are there. So it really gives people a new way of experiencing that type of food, and through us, we were able to do that in Niagara region.
Oh, great. Charlie?
Well, certainly with the Grove, what started as when we first opened up the Grove, the idea was that, you know, we're the business that was there before us, the Fruit Shack, and I mention them because they were in business for so long, and they created such a community of customers, people within the area. They're selling their own farm produce. We took over from them for the Grove, and made it our own with the pieces that we felt that were lacking from either the business before or from the area. And so, just as an example, our sandwiches and our salads, there's plenty of restaurants and wineries in Niagara on the Lake. We realized that there's not too many places you can go and grab a fresh sandwich. So something like that was definitely on the list. But what we quickly realized was there's also not too many places in Niagara on the Lake where you can go for a conversation. And since COVID, that became even more important to us. And yes, that's not a product per se, but for us, that became the void that we saw being really important to us as a business. And it's not something that you're doing to make money, but it certainly it gives your business more, it gives our business more of a purpose. And what I mean by that is that every customer that comes into the store, it's about the experience. So it's the conversation that we have with them. It's maybe talking about some amazing new vegetable that we have, or some awesome product that we found from another company that we'd like to support. And that conversation, that almost education, I would put it, about the farming community or Niagara or food in general, or about sustainability, like that sort of has become our mission. Like when we first started out, and every business absolutely should have their mission statement, but I think that it should evolve over time with what you learn and who you meet and the experiences that you have. And so for us, as much as it's not a product gap that I would say is my focus with the Grove and what we're presenting, there are things, of course, like our sandwiches. But for me in particular, it was realizing that my purpose through the business was to have these conversations with people. And that's what I was missing from, I wouldn't say from businesses, but from Niagara, especially Niagara on the Lake in general. It gets too caught up in the tourism industry, and you're missing that human connection. And COVID just made that super clear to me. So that's where my focus is at this time.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. Ray, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, because our situation is a little bit different from both of y'all, because of ours is like we rely heavily on customers coming in the store. So we had to do a lot of changes. Our main focus was still trying to provide that experience, but in your home, basically. So what we did was we even, like, it's the detail that we put on our what we do is what's important to us. It's for example, we even ask where you kind of live, so we can specifically time all the foods so that when it comes home, it's always to perfection. It's just that, like, that's what the customers usually come back for, even though it's like COVID and all that. It's that little details that you put into everything. So.
Oh, thank you. How did you all know that it was the right time to open a business?
I'll go first. I didn't know. I was. I mean, my whole plan on our business is just to initially to learn, because, like I said, I'm an engineer. I'm totally no experience in food business, but we have a passion on creating the product. My wife has a little bit experience in the food industry, but I didn't know. I just went through different stages of learning. That's my own experience. Like I said, we started in the farmers market, creating, innovating, trying a lot of things on our product until we have a perfect product as we have now. And I just went along with learnings as I go along, as I step up. So, like, support within the local community helped me a lot, especially St. Catharines Business Center, that really solidify my what do you call this, my courage to be able to open a storefront through that program wherein they teach you how to create your business plan. They teach you how to manage your cash flow, and at the end there's a grant program that will help me to be able to expand it. So I went to that process, and by the time I ended that process, I have the confidence say, yeah, with all the things I know with the farmers market, this can work. And I went through it. So I just went through stages as I go along and keep learning. Up now, until now, I'm still learning learning with a lot of people like Ray, everybody in the business that been trained properly on the food industry. I'm still learning that with them, and so far so good. But like I said, just go with your passion. You don't wait until you're ready to open. If you have an idea, try it out in a small bit, in a calculated risk type of manner, and go for it. And now I'm opening a new restaurant based on that learning on my previous restaurant, and much better approach, and a much better, what do you call this, support from Niagara Business Center. Now I'm going to Niagara Falls Business Center with Volcare, with all the contacts that I connected through my uh, experience with St. Catharines Business Center helps me a lot. So that's my own journey in the food industry, and happy to be able to share that with everybody. And they have a question, they can send me a message, and I can, give a first-hand experience on our journey from Fiesta to the La Familia Grill.
Nice. Awesome. Charlie?
Well, for me, I think it started with me being the world's most annoying employee to every person that I worked for before opening my business. So before opening the food truck back in 2015, I was working for a local restaurant. And yes, I was interested in everything. I think I just constantly hounded them with like, well, how do you do this? And why do you do this? And why don't we do this? And eventually I think I really came to terms with the fact that it wasn't going to be about money or about even timing in life. Like my husband and I were lucky enough, we didn't have kids at that point. We don't have kids now, but I think the circumstances were, it's do or die, it's now or never. And I gave my notice to my employers at the time, and that's when I got in touch with the Enterprise Center, and it was like, okay, can I do this? And it wasn't, I'm sure that looking back, there were better times that I could have done it in the past, but I think anybody who's got that entrepreneurial like spirit and drive in them, you kind of know that no matter what you do, you're not going to be happy unless you give this a go and find out, what's going to happen. You'll regret it. If you don't try it, you're going to regret it. And that doesn't mean you go all out and, put all your savings into this one plan that might not work out. It's just that you should start looking into it, and you should start finding out what resources are available to you. Like if it wasn't for the Enterprise Center, I don't think that things would have gone as well as they did, because you, again, like Nelson said, you learn about how to do a proper cash flow, and you get advice from the right mentors, and all of those little questions. Like, I mean, in the beginning of the health board guide, Craig, when he was talking about how things have changed now and you can have a little hand wash sink in your home, like to do a home kitchen, those questions and those answers, it took forever to find out all of those things. And for a long time, I nearly did a home kitchen. And I think, again, it's that inner like drive that tells you got to do it. And you got to do it. If you're thinking about it this hard, if you're sat in this talk looking at other entrepreneurs and all the regulations, and if you're in this kind of a talk, then clearly you're the person that wants to open their own business, and you just need that little extra push and be supported by the right people. And that's, I mean, again, I can not speak highly enough of the Enterprise Center. It's been a journey, and they've been there the whole time.
Okay, Ray, over to you.
So it was never, there's never a right time to open up a business. It's more of a, like, if you find that goal that you want to achieve, like for us, we're trying to show that there's a difference way to do a restaurant. Our restaurant doesn't have any servers, so we're trying to focus on like that connection between the chefs and the customers. So that's what we've been trying to do for the past 3 years now. And yeah, if you have that clear goal, that mindset that you want to achieve, yeah, everything will follow after that.
Perfect. Okay, Charlie, who's your guest? Just joined us.
This is my cat. Her name is Baby. Yeah, she's adorable.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a virtual meeting without an animal popping in. So that's fantastic. Okay, well, is there any advice that you wish somebody had told you about being a business owner or in this industry when you were starting out, looking back on those earliest days?
Yeah, there's a lot. Just to give a perspective, I failed two businesses first. I mean, in Niagara, first we have an online store that manufacturing mineral makeup way back 2010, 2011. It was a successful online business. My wife creating the online mineral makeup in-house with all those things, but with lack of support, we were not able to sustain it with little kids. So there's growing pains in the business, and I should have reached out to people by that time on how to grow that, but I don't have that support. I don't have that knowledge of support to grow that online business, that it dies down on its own due to pressure of family and everything. And then I have another business that failed as well without support. So I think the most important part is when you're opening a business, that if you have an idea, put it on paper, create a business plan, and find people that can help you to grow it, to expand it, to review it. And don't be scared that it might not work. It's just a small idea, a small testing. Just go for it. So if I'm gonna go back 10 years ago, I should have reached out to people that I know are professional on that line of business, like our speaker from the start up to now should be able to help me on that first business that I have and should be successful. But that's part of growing, and that's part of learning, as everybody says. And I took that all experience from my past two businesses and applied it in here right from the start. And that it came about is at early stage I was able to connect to a lot of people, a lot of professionals, and then I took that knowledge and still up to now using it from every decision that I make through our business, as we grow, as we expand.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that experience, Nelson. Yeah, Charlie, we'll keep going.
I absolutely agree with Nelson. I think the first thing I thought of was you have to be prepared to fail sometimes, and things will get better, and you try harder, and maybe you say goodbye to one idea, but you start another one. I really think that is something that, you might have been told it when you're starting out, you might be listening, but are you really listening? Like I definitely, I had heard all of those things. I just didn't take it deeply inside of me. And then that first time when you really mess up, or things don't go as planned, or a pandemic happens and you have to really suddenly change. But even before the pandemic, when you burn an entire vat of pasta sauce that was supposed to make you a whole bunch of money, like little failures or big failures, they're going to happen. And you do have to sort of prepare yourself for that in the industry. Second to that, I was only going to say the thing I wasn't prepared for truly, and I think I wasn't ready for it, was when you're the boss, when you run your own business and you start taking on staff. I think you have to really be prepared to be the person in charge. And if you're running your business, you're opening your business, and you need things to go the way they go. You have to make sure you have great communication with your staff members. For me, it's a lot of family. I've employed most of my family over this journey. And you have to be ready to be not the bad guy, but the person in charge. And I think at the beginning of opening the business, I was so focused on my product and running the business and being the person operating it. And the idea of my staff and how they play a role into the business, and that came along later for me with the restaurant and now with the Grove. It's so important to think of those things at the early stages so that you have a game plan and that you don't get overwhelmed with managing people. Because if you're getting into a business that's going to involve having staff or having other people just to help you out, even, that person who comes to do cash for you at a farm market while you're selling your product, they're extremely important to your business. And you have to have a game plan on how to manage people at the beginning of opening your business. I think that's something that I had thought about, but I really hadn't put too much effort into it in the initial stages of opening things, because it was just me and my dad at that point. But it became extremely important later on, and I would definitely say that's something to think about.
I'm very much appreciating the vulnerability of you guys and talking about your failures, because I know that that's not always an easy thing. But Ray, how about you? What's the one thing you wish someone had told you?
Be a little more flexible. Not everything's gonna go according to plan. So I know there's like, if you hit like that roadblock and you think you just gotta learn to be more flexible with everything, because nothing's gonna go your way. There's always something every day that's gonna happen. So just be prepared for that. But yeah, it's a fun journey.
Yeah, great. One of the things that Nelson, you touched on in your answer to the previous question when we were talking about your first business was not really having that support or network around you to help with things as you grew. And since owning a business is so much about networking, can you tell us, everyone, just about the most profound relationships that you've fostered and made in your current journeys?
Oh, there's a lot.
And why they're important too.
There's a lot, and I enjoy them all. Like Ray, Alitura, I mean, in the local market. First, the local market, the connection within the vendors, the connection within the businesses. I carry different products with local vendors. Like I carry a local hot sauce, delicious hot sauce that's in Niagara. I carry Past Bakery cheese dots. So I support within the community. Then I get that networking on, let's for say Past Bakery. I ask them where to get that packaging, and they send me Route 3. So it sends you that connection that you don't have to waste a lot of time researching what's the best, because they already use it. And for our product, it's not to worry about where you're going to put your product, because there's opportunity for, like Alitura Ray has, carrying over some of our frozen empanadas and those things. So it gives me business opportunities, and also gives me helping others to be able to grow their business. So it's very important. And for my new one, the La Familia Grill, the connection between Ball Care, Kyle Wash from BDC, and through facilitation of Enterprise Niagara, I was able to connect all the pieces I need when I started my new business. So it's really a key secret in a small business or starting a business, is your network of professionals, um, not only for the funding, but also for your growth in terms of where you're going to position your product, that will be able to help you to expand your market, not only to your store, but across other store that will be willing to take your product and provide you an opportunity to grow. So it's a very key ingredient that I don't have in my previous business, that now I know that's one of my trade secret, is having that information and grow them and continue to nourish that and take care of that information as you go along with the business, because that will keep you really what do you call this, set in your success and in every aspect of your business, in every stages of your business.
That's great. That's great. Charlie?
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. Can you hear me now? Did you hear any of what I said, or is it all gone?
You can just take it from the top again. That would be wonderful.
I was just saying, Nelson, you really nailed it. The relationships between other businesses and vendors, they really are like some of the most important connections that you're making in the business. You're not in competition with other businesses around you. You guys are in it together. we're all trying to create a life for ourselves. We're trying to create something new and important in the world, in the area. Niagara has such an amazing culture for food businesses, and we have this great opportunity where people are actually adventurous and interested in these things. It's important for us all to collaborate together and to be a team rather than being pitted against each other. And I go through this with our business and butter tarts. We have an amazing pastry chef, Michelle Coley from Sugar and Slice, who makes our butter tarts for the store. And people, our customers, they'll regularly say like, oh, are these as good as so-and-so's, or are these as good as so-and-so's? And it's like, that's not what we're here to do. Like, it's a beautiful butter tart. There's no competition. You can enjoy two things at once, and you can have two businesses working together, but maybe not actually, that we're not doing business together, but we can still support each other. And I think the best relationships that I've built with the business, and like, it's awesome to actually see Nelson and Ray, not in person, but in this kind of a meeting, because I haven't had the time to leave my business for a while now and to meet new people in the industry. So I am currently limited by the relationships I've grown up until this point, but I'm excited to make new ones. And I think those are, that truly is the most important part of networking for your business and for growing your business, for sure.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. And Ray, how about for you?
Yeah, so Nelson and Charlie was they basically said everything for it. Yeah, it's having those connections, because I go to the farmers market to get all the vegetables for the restaurant. That's where I talked to Nelson, and then we started a relationship from there. And yeah, it just grew. And then I see my professors from the Niagara College and the farmers market as well. And then if I needed help, I go to Niagara College, even though I graduated like 8 years ago over there. They still help me with anything I need, from like equipment that I will need at the restaurant for an event, or like connections where to get some other like specialty products. So yeah, those just little things that you don't know where you're gonna get your connections from. They always matter.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I'm just curious, what does a typical day at the office, in quotes, what does that look like for you now compared to when you guys first started out? How have things changed for you?
Mine is different because mine's different. Mostly, I do business a lot on my phone and my computer, because my business is being operated by my partner Jenny, my wife. So she's really doing all the hand-on business on the store. But my typical day is a Saturday. Saturday is where really I put my effort in, because that's a farmers market day. And on a regular farmers market on a summertime, we run 3 farmers market at the same time, and the store. So that's really starts very early for us. We cook fresh everything for all the farmers market from 5 a.m. up to 1 p.m. So that's really where I put all my contribution to the business, is on a Saturday and a Sunday. Monday to Friday, that's for my job, my personal job. But on a Saturday, that's where I put all my effort. I arrange everything. I coordinated all the staff, including my 2 kids in a normal day. And the farmers market start from 7. I have to set up all the farmers market stall and set up all the inventory that they need, and we go from there. And then depending on how busy the day was, and it's going to be a hectic schedule, sometimes we run out of inventory, we have to make more, we have to call in employees to be able to make the inventory as we go. So um, that's for it for me. I mean, on a normal day, I do everything in the business on the phone, connecting with suppliers, to connecting with businesses. But on a weekend, that's where I really help out on hands-on on our business.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, Charlie, how about for you? Has it changed? Has your day, the flow of your day, changed at all?
Yes. And I'm definitely, big on being transparent. I would much rather just tell you how it is nowadays compared to the beginning. When I first started, like way back with the food truck, I was running absolutely insane days. I mean, I was up at 6 prepping for events, and then the events usually ran until midnight. And then it'd take a couple of hours to bring the truck home and unload. And then you nap a little bit, you go back to do it in the morning. And I think I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then the restaurant opened. And it was just absolute chaos at that point. So my day when I first opened versus now, I've learned really to change the way that I deal with my mental health and my, self-care around being a business owner. Like it's, it sounds crunchy, but it's very much, it's so important to take care of yourself in the process. So my day right now being, the end of March, this is our downtime. Like the business is operating, but I'm very careful to make sure that I'm planning for the chaotic season that is literally approaching in the next couple of months. It's going to be insanity. And I know that I'm going to be working, 16, 17-hour days and then trying to do your other personal stuff after that. So at this point in time, this is kind of the chill time, but an average day when it's fruit season and when the tourists are out is like, you're up baking around 6 in the morning and then the day just keeps going. And if it's busy, then you stay late. And if you have work to get done at the end of the day that needed to be done yesterday, you're doing it after actually operating the business. So, I mean, that's my day in chaos times. But right now, I decided to take this morning off in order to be at this event. And I'm taking this as sort of my self-care moment to chill and to speak with other people and network. And I think it's important to remember that you are still human. And, when you're ambitious and starting out with your business, you need to factor in your limitations or what they could be. You don't want to run yourself too hard. You don't want to burn the candle at both ends. You got to have a plan on how to take care of yourself and run a business at the same time.
Yeah, very, very wise words. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, that was great. Truly. Ray, how about for you? Your day when you started in Coho and your day now running in Coho and Alitura.
Yeah, mine's because what we're trying to avoid before was the clopen. That means like you're opening and then you're closing and then you're opening again. That's what we were trying to avoid. But like being as a business owner now running 2 businesses, you just got to make sure that your employees don't do the clopen, but you still have to, because my typical day, well, at least now I know I'm not alone. It's like 16 to 18 hours a day. That's a regular day. The longer days are around 20. But yeah, it's just like it's that like ambition, that like drive that keeps you going. And then sometimes if I finish at like maybe a 14-hour day, I feel like I didn't do enough for the day. I feel like I'm being lazy. So yeah, it's just I think that's the foundation that I built for myself, and yeah, that's where we are.
Well, Ray, I'm going to start with you on this question, on my next question, which both you and Charlie, you touched on it a little bit, but how do you avoid burnout, like especially in those early days and with the long hours and the little time off? I mean, tell me about that for you personally and even in general. How do you recommend avoiding that?
So everyone has their different ways to be like to get that refresh moment. Like for me, it's like basketball. So I always try to get like that basketball in, even though it's like 30 minutes or like 45 minutes. It'll just get me like ready for the whole day. Um, and then you just got to make sure that you take days off like once in a while, like maybe once every 14 days, you know. But but yeah, it's just that you just need that refresh moment every time, and then take a lot of power naps.
Are you writing those into your schedule? Are you writing those into your calendar to
Yeah,
remind you, or?
yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, Charlie, how about you? You did talk about it a little bit, but can you elaborate a bit more on avoiding that burnout and the whole self-care piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the early days, I'm a really bad example because I didn't like I came very close to burnout after the first couple of years because I think with the food industry and coming out of cooking in a restaurant into my own business, you do tend to be at events where people are socializing and they're drinking and they're eating wonderful things, and when you're done work, even if you could walk away, you still end up staying and having fun with everybody and enjoying the time. And it's a catch-22 because you also want to network and socialize with the people that you're dealing with, but at the same time you should go home and sleep, and that's very important. And I didn't learn that lesson until a little bit later when I've lost a bunch of weight and I realized, oh, I keep forgetting not to eat because I'm working so hard. I'm surrounded by food, but every portion I'm making is meant for a customer. So I was so hard on myself, and it wasn't until later down the line when I came to realize that like the quality of work, especially when it came to paperwork or the non-cooking aspect of the business, because that's obviously where my passion is. My passion isn't doing Excel sheets and payroll, but I found that if I'm so tired and so burnt out by the time I need to do those things, something that should have only taken half an hour suddenly takes 4 hours to do. So I learned eventually, I learned the lesson, and now on this side of things, like it's true, you gotta schedule a day off. You gotta set boundaries with your friends so that they know they might not see you for a couple of months because you're so busy with work. And you have to be kind to yourself, I think, because we talked about it at the beginning, but that you know well, I certainly was thinking it at the beginning. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to be perfect right out of the gate, and there's going to be times where you fail, and when you're burned out, when you do fail, it hurts that much harder because you just don't. It's so much harder to pick yourself back up and do something that's going to work out and be successful if you yourself are not successful on your inner self. Yeah.
No, it's
I'm a
very
dork. I'm
no,
sorry.
no. It's very true. It's very true. I mean, that's really good and important insight for sure. It's my experience too as an entrepreneur, as a writer. So I absolutely get that. Nelson, how about you?
Yes, we have our own experiences for that, especially like I said, early we stayed up late in the shop just to keep up with inventory. But we learn we learn right away that we prioritize that. So one things that we did, we used to be open on Sunday. Like we used to be open on Sunday, but as we go on, we realize we need that Sunday and Monday for us to be able to generate. It doesn't matter we're closed that 2 days. I mean, our business still gonna be good if we, but it's more important we bring it back to our family. So we make sure that our Sunday. Yeah, there are a lot of people who would like to be on Sunday, but we prioritize our family on that Sunday and Monday. So we really, for Fiesta, we are closed on a Sunday and Monday regardless. And not only that, we realize how to get help. So in terms of our process flow, because we are different from a restaurant, we divided them into different segments that we don't need to work 8 hours just to do one. So we segments our process flow. We're in 4 hours, 4 hours we can do, and then one day we put everything together. So and by hiring the right people, so we started hiring people to be able to help us instead of us doing everything. So but teaching them the right process. So i I think we prioritize that. And for self-care, I make sure that I have my own self-care. I play basketball, the same thing as Ray. I play video games, the same thing as my kid. I watch a lot of movies, especially once it reach 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. at night. No more work. Even on my personal work, I don't touch my computer. I don't even send emails for businesses. So it's really a mindset, and make sure that you're following that mindset to help you to at least get your own personal time by watching a movie every night or something. And friends and family will help you. So On a Saturday when we're all tired because of our busy day, sometimes our friends will help say, "Hey, come over on our house with a little gathering." It helps us to be able to relax through that type of experience. So we always keep that alive in terms of friendship. And one tip that we did this year is even as early as February, we book a holiday on December to make sure that we're gonna take a holiday this year, forcing us to make sure that allocate that 2 weeks of last week of December that we will go out with our friends on a trip, and nothing can stop you because it's already been paid, it's already been booked. So you set your goal that you're gonna take a holiday for yourself. So that's one thing that we did new, and we should keep doing it every year to make sure you can do it twice a year as a business owner and plan for it, because you can plan for that type, like who are gonna take care of your business while you're away. So you have like 8 months to plan for it. So that's a new thing that we're doing in Fiesta.
Wonderful. All of you, very, very, very wise words. I appreciate it. So that pretty much wraps up the conversation. But just quickly from each of you, I'd love to know if you can share with the audience if they've never been to Fiesta Empanadas or the Grove or in Coho or Alitura, and they're coming in for the first time. What would you tell them to get? What would the gateway to enjoying your businesses be for them?
I can start first. Of course, our empanada. Our empanada is our flagship baby. That we perfected it for the last 2 years, and we keep growing our flavors. So, but basically, that's where we're proud of, because we work hard to be able to make sure it's consistent, it's the same, and it's always fresh as we make it in the farmers market or in the store. But not only that, we're expanding to our local um, type of food that we would like people to enjoy as much they enjoy the empanada. Empanada is just a segue to a lot of flavors that we can bring in. That's why we created another businesses to be able to do that, and really help the whole Niagara region to have a choice of what food to eat, what type of flavors they need, to make sure that they have that opportunity to enjoy things that probably halfway around the world that we can bring in to our businesses. So our empanada, and soon our grilled foods within La Familia Grill. So it's a tropical flavor kind of thing, where we grill a lot of coconut, a lot of flavored coconuts, lemongrass, and everything. And hopefully, people can enjoy that pretty soon. And looking forward to see everybody there once we are ready for business.
Wonderful. I look forward to it. I look forward to that. Charlie, for you, what's the one thing that was?
I think probably our pasties. They are something that we've made throughout all three businesses up until the Grove, and they are still my favorite item that we make in-house. So we have about 6 different flavors of pasties, and those are British pasties, not the other thing pasties are. Pasties are like they're almost empanada, like almost, but they're a little bit they're about this size, and they're just like a beautiful flaky pastry stuffed with all kinds of goodness. So we have a char siu barbecue, we've got steak and potato, very traditional, cheese and onion, chicken, ham, and leek, a couple of different flavors there, but I would say the pasties for sure. And I did wonder if, I hope that this is okay, Tiffany, but I wanted to just put it out there for any of the little, the new businesses out there, anybody who looks for markets. The Grove is running a mini market this summer, starting in June. So if anybody is interested in that, the applications are on our website at thegroveniagara.com. But it's a really good place for small business to sort of get a little bit of a start. And I'll be on site all the time to help with anything as well. So just plugging my thing out there, but I just thought it would be a good opportunity for some smaller businesses to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you. And Ray.
So we'll start with Alatura. In the summer, we'll have a little bit of picnic experiences going on around. Stuff that's coming off our stone oven over there outside. There's going to be a lot of little bit of like night picnics almost that we're going to be doing. And then for in Coho, it's our 7-course tasting menu as well. They book up fairly quickly. I'd say we're going to be opening up the books today. We'll be booked by Sunday. So that's one of the experiences that you gotta try for sure.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Listen, all of you, thank you so much. Your answers were really wonderful and insightful, and I know I found them helpful. And I'm not even in the food business per se, as far as doing anything but being the observer who writes about it. So really, really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just before each of you go, Charlie, Nelson, Ray, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Thank you for stepping away from your business. Charlie, I kind of laughed out loud when you said this is a form of self-care. You're presenting to at least 50, 60 people right now, and for a lot of people that would not be self-care. So thank you so much for taking time to do that. All of you, your successes, your stories, your failures, they're inspiring. And I'm sure this has helped a lot of the attendees here to get a glimpse of what they're in for if they follow in your path in some degree. Whether it's food or any type of business, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work, and you do need to surround yourself with a lot of good people and resources. And on that note, it was so kind of each of you to give a little shout out to all of our Enterprise Center services here in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls. I'm sure I speak for Dean and Victoria and Kristen in saying it's a real privilege for us to meet with hundreds of aspiring entrepreneurs every single year and seeing many of them get started and succeed and stay in touch with our business. And we just play a small part in supporting you on your journey and connecting you with great resources and information through days like today, and introductions to people and resources you might not have heard of, like Volker Loet-Faring from Venture Niagara, who introduced each of you, and Tiffany. Volker is a true champion of small business in the community through Venture Niagara. He's given out I would say millions of dollars in loans over the years. Volker could confirm or deny the number, but Volker is a huge champion. And speaking of champions, Tiffany, we reached out to you out of the blue and said, "Hey, what are you doing on March 31st? Would you care to moderate this?" And Tiffany, you're a true champion of the local food industry, and you did such a good job of moderating today. And really, really can't say enough appreciation to each of you for contributing to this event and everybody else. In a second, I'm going to pass this back over to Dean for some concluding remarks, but I have one last official duty. We mentioned at the beginning that we are providing some gift certificates to each of the panelists today, including the Bagel Oven, who unfortunately had a last-minute challenge and wasn't able to join us. But we'd like to provide a $100 gift card for each of the panel participants from each of the businesses to some of the attendees here. And we've done a draw in the background, and I'm happy to announce the names. We will have those available for you to pick up by Monday. But the winners are Peter Klepp, Elva, and I apologize if I say any of your last names wrong, Elva Tamamagi, Carrie Satin, and Tim Epperingham. And actually, Tim, perhaps we should give a quick shout out to Tim and his business, which is Dine Niagara. Dine Niagara is a wonderful service for local restaurateurs, and it connects restaurateurs to the public for a different form of delivery service and promotion of local food businesses. So I really encourage people here to check out Dine Niagara. Anyhow, I'm really feeling pumped up. I think the team's done a great job, and on that note, I want to pass it over to Dean to bring the event home.
Thank you very much, Rob. You've said about as much as I could say, and I'm starving, quite frankly, after hearing all this talk about local food businesses. And I don't know what I'm going to have for lunch now. I'm a little conflicted over which direction I'm going to go. But again, on behalf of Rob and I, thank you so much for our speakers and for our local businesses, for Tiffany, for volunteering your time to be part of this event. And when we started planning this event and doing our initial outreach, the word that kept coming up when we were discussing food entrepreneurship, the food economy, was community. That was a word that just kept surfacing. And all of you who have been a part of this event today, you have definitely brought that community spirit to the table. So kudos to you for being part of this. This is our first time experimenting with this kind of event. And I don't know about you, Rob, but I think this has been quite the success. I would also like to thank some people behind the scenes, Victoria and Kristen and Natalie from both of our small business centers, who have made sure this event has gone on smoothly, and we couldn't have done it without them. And if this was an in-person event, I'd call them up to the stage, but I know that they're comfortable sticking behind the scenes. And thank you again for your participation in our event. Lastly, I started off by saying I hope this event would help people who are aspiring or existing food entrepreneurs move one step closer towards their goals. And if you have been motivated to make that next step, that is why our two small business centers exist here in Niagara. We are a no-cost community service that is publicly funded in partnership with the province, and we work closely with our municipal partners in all parts of the region to make sure people have access to business advisory services. So you can find us on social media, you can find us online, and we have small but powerful teams, I think, Rob. You know, we operate lean like many of you do with your businesses, but we hope to punch above our weight, and we're always welcome for a call or an inquiry.
Absolutely.
So that's it from my end. Thank you to everyone who has made this possible. And Rob, anything maybe I missed there before we wrap up, or?
No, and I think I stole some of your final remarks, Dean, in my excitement. But really, it's just if one takeaway is, like you said, Dean, we're both our offices are small teams, but we genuinely want to help. We want to connect people with the right resources. And if you're a motivated entrepreneur with a good idea, we can add some value for you. We can really add a little bit of value, and would love to see you on this stage in a couple years' time.
Awesome. Great words, Rob. That's it for us. How about a virtual round of applause for all of you and for everyone? And I think it's lunchtime, so off to lunch. So thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Continued success, everybody.